The first thing on the agenda, I wanted to discuss a couple of things. One is, I'm going to ask that the applicants who have matters before the board today, that they put their speakers on mute until their case is called, and then unmute them at that point in time so that we don't have feedback. The second thing I wanted to address is that we are getting more anonymous letters in. And how you want to treat an anonymous letter is kind of up to you. But I'm treating an anonymous letter like the courts would treat it. There's no credibility when we don't know who's issuing this correspondence to us. We can't identify who they are or where they reside. And I'm giving a little credibility to totally anonymous letters. The last thing I wanted to address is late filings. During the last few months, we've been receiving filings right up until a couple of hours before we come on board. I think we're going to use our discretion, but just like the Taft Road solar plant that filed an amendment to their site plan, we held off on them until we had enough time to really review it and get public input on it. So we'll play it by ear, but with a caution to applicants that if they do filings on the day of a hearing or even a few days before, it's too late for us to get a really good review of it and an understanding of what we're looking at. We need time to digest it and really understand what we're looking at. Having said that, first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of our last meeting. Are there any requests for changes or modifications of those minutes?
I believe that those were not quite ready.
Yeah, they weren't.
Joe, I know you saw them, but the rest of the board has not seen them yet.
Oh, I apologize. I got them and I presumed everybody had. Okay.
They were.
We will hold that until 2 weeks from now then.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is an application by Chris Bollinger. This is for his property located at 7137 East Genesee Street in Fayetteville. It's scheduled tonight for a public hearing on a site plan amendment, specifically for a roofed porch and deck. This is tax map number 085-07-11. Is there somebody present on behalf of the applicant? And if so, could you identify yourself?
Yes, Chris Bollinger.
Hi, Chris.
Hi there.
We received all of your information. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to proceed forward with a SECRA determination. Jamie, can you help us with the questions?
I can, and okay, the questions. Number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
No.
No.
Proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
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 Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that caused the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
No.
Action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
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 Action impact existing public or private water supplies or wastewater treatment?
No.
No.
Proposed action impair the quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna?
No.
Proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
No.
Given that, there are no no or small or impact may occur, the chair can entertain a motion for a negative seeker declaration.
And I
So
would
moved.
entertain a motion for a negative declaration.
Second.
Who first the motion?
Mike.
Mike Leroy made the motion, second by Richard. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Is there any opposed? Negative declaration is approved. I would now entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Fred Gilbert.
Second. I'll make a
Gilbert made the motion, second by Richard.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the notice.
Thank you, Richard.
Second.
And who
I
said,
don't know.
was it Leanne who seconded that?
Mike. Mike.
I'm sorry, Mike. Okay, so we got an amendment, which is to waive the reading, made by Richard and second by Mike Leroy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The reading of the notice of publication is hereby waived. Now I would entertain that motion to open the public hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved. Fred Gilbert moved a while ago.
And Arnie, was that you who seconded it?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is hereby opened. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to be heard?
So far, there's nothing in the Q&A and nothing on Facebook.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is hereby closed. I did want to point out that we did have a public letter that was received from a Frank Irwin who lives right around the corner. And he wanted us to know that this particular owner has been doing tremendous improvements to the property and that he is extremely pleased with this applicant and what he is doing to the property, making it look good. So Chris, thank you for what you're doing. I would entertain a motion at this time relative to site plan amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve the,
I'll
Second.
Made by Ann and second by Michael Roy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Chris, your application is approved.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for what you're doing to make the neighborhood look good.
Thank you.
The next item on my agenda is an application by Falk Renewables. This is a continuation of an existing public hearing regarding a special permit and site plan approval for the solar array. And this particular array is at Green Lakes Road, tax map number 82-2-15.1. At our last public hearing, no one spoke for or against this applicant, and we had to continue it because we had an electrical outage. So at this point, we will continue that public hearing. Is there anyone else who wants to add anything?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Richard Rossetti, second by Mike Leroy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing is hereby ended. And there has been no input at all from anybody. Jamie?
Sure.
Because this is a special permit, did you
Correct.
want to go through the 5 terms of the special permit just to recharge our batteries?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll go through it. And so we have to answer the question, will the project have an adverse effect on adjacent lands, the immediate neighborhood, and the character of the community? So we have to ask the following. In this plan, is the community protected from traffic congestion and conflicts, flooding, excessive soil erosion, unnecessary noise, lighting, odors, wasteful energy use, and other forms of pollution?
Yes.
No.
This plan
Richard,
protect
you
the
said
community?
no?
That,
I think it's,
it's no
I
for
think
me.
it's, yeah, that it's fine, right? Okay. There's no issues. Does this plan protect the community from inappropriate design and other matters of scenic and aesthetic significance?
I think so.
I would say yes, yeah.
I wish there was more screening.
It's a different place, I think, Ann.
Right, it opens up though the button veil, you know, that's okay, nobody complained about it.
But that's a site plan issue.
Right,
Tail into the special permit. But
Anyone else want to be heard on that question?
is it an inappropriate design that causes aesthetic issues? And I think the next question, does the plan ensure that the proposed use will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district, which it is proposed?
We're getting some feedback from Jamie, aren't we? Or I am.
I think the feedback ended.
Okay.
I hope.
So we're asking those two questions. If there's any inappropriate design or matters of aesthetic significance, or is it in harmony and appropriate with the orderly development of the district?
I think it's in harmony.
I do too. I think this planning board approved it several years ago and it's substantially the same.
Yeah.
Are there any adverse impacts that can be mitigated?
I don't think there's adverse impacts.
I would agree.
And
Great.
does the project conform with the town's planning goals and objectives?
Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes.
in the proper zone.
Are there any conditions that the board would like to put on this project in granting a special permit?
No.
Ann may have some feedback on this as far as screening.
well, no, I always like to see screening at least along the roadway. And also people from Buttonville will look over and see it. If they could put screening along there, that would be great. I mean, just along the main road there.
May I ask, did anybody on Buttonville complain or chime in during the public hearing?
Not this time, but they did when this was approved a few years ago.
Okay.
They did in 2017, this application was in front of us and it was only two-thirds of the area. And the applicant showed us a visual of what Buttonville would see. And at that time, Buttonville wouldn't see anything. I don't think it's the same anymore because they've expanded it southerly by a third larger than what it was. But again, nobody's complaining.
Right.
Has the applicant got a curb cut onto 290 from the state?
I believe it's the existing curb cut, Rich. That's there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jody.
No, there's an existing curb cut already there.
And that's what you're using?
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And other than the fencing, is there any screening at all on the, I'm trying to get my bearing here,
The west side.
the west side?
There is, in the sense that Mr. Hafner has Christmas trees planted there, and that there's a lot of topography. So when I'm trying to get my bearings too, but when you're coming from the north, I think part of our visual analysis was that you'll see almost nothing because of the hillside that'll be off to your left. It's fairly well screened.
That's if you're driving on 290. I'm just wondering, is there anything to help the Buttonville people?
Buttonville, it's up on a hill, correct?
Correct.
And it's pretty far up on a hill. I don't know that there's a whole lot that could be done. They're up at a higher elevation.
Are all those Christmas trees going to be in front of this?
The Christmas, this is Teddy. Yeah, this is Teddy Epstein. The Christmas trees are going to be harvested and sold by Chuck Hafner, most of them prior to the installation of the facility. And he will continue to farm Christmas trees at another site and at any part of the site that he deems that he can, with allowing us the sunlight that we need to generate electricity.
So will these, will the Christmas tree area be used for this site? For this,
Where the Chris part of it will,
okay,
but not the entire. We don't plan on using the whole thing, but it really depends on timing of when he can harvest them and when we can install.
That's a little bit different than the last time you folks saw this. The last time we saw it, Mr. Hafner said that he was going to leave some of those trees along the berm area and whatnot. So you may want to revisit that just to see that it's consistent.
I don't think that he was taking out the trees along the berm area. I think the area that we're talking about right now, and you can see it if you look at, I think it is the second page of the site plan design, the civil design set. It's the existing conditions. It's that little square area of Christmas trees. The
Correct.
trees along the berm will stay.
Correct,
So
right?
far as
Same
I
as last
understand.
time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, when Teddy says they're all going to be taken out, it's not really.
All's not a good word.
I didn't mean all. I meant within our site plan area. I don't have anything to do with what Chuck has to do with the rest of his business. So
No.
So you're just leasing the area within the fence?
correct, Mr. Rossetti.
Well, just
Are
so
the-
it's clear that the screening will remain then, correct?
The berm and the trees that are on that berm are not slated to be taken down. I mean, that's a lot of earth moving.
It would be the
Mike-
same as the last plan, right, Jody?
Correct.
Well, our applicant has no control what takes place outside of their leased area, which means those trees might stay, they might not stay. It's not up to them, it's up to Hafner.
Mhm.
And I apologize, this may be a stupid question. I get confused on these. Are these the kind of panels that move and follow the sun?
At the moment, they're slated to be fixed tilt,
Fixed, okay.
southern facing.
Okay, thank you.
Based upon the answers everybody's giving, is the consensus that this is appropriate for a special permit?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
yes.
That requires a
Okay.
motion.
Then the first motion I would entertain would be a motion to approve the special permit.
So moved.
Second,
Motion made by Richard Rossetti and second by Mike Leroy. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Motion for special permit is approved. I would entertain a motion relative to site plan approval according to the terms of the site plan filed with the town.
Well, Joe, if I could just jump in, I mean,
You can, Richard.
thanks. What I said earlier, where they don't have control of the property that they're not leasing, is a little bit of a problem for us if we want to keep any type of berm, trees, buffer area, whatever, between the panels and 290. They don't have control of that. And so I don't know how we can force them or ask them or request them to do anything in that area, which might be a problem to some people. I don't know. I'm just thinking that somebody could go in there and doze that land down so that you could see all the panels from 290. We have no control.
As far as we know right now, Rich, that there's nobody that is voicing any objection to the project from from that side of the project, are they? So I don't know. We don't need to borrow trouble, I guess.
Okay, I'm going to make you aware that they don't control that property, and that can change tomorrow, next week, next year. To me, I'm okay with it. I'm just saying that the landscape there now, the topo there now can be different in a week. And they have no control over that.
The problem is we don't either, Richard.
I-
We can't control what Hafner's going to do on the rest of his land.
I agree, but if we wanted a berm or something to protect the view, because their panels go right up their lease line, there's nothing we can do. And again, I'm okay with that. Just want to point that out so everybody understands it.
We're generally going with the notion that looking at this kind of an installation is objectionable. And I don't personally feel that way. You've got to look at something out there, I suppose. And I think that a lot of them are kind of neat.
Okay.
But, it's the eyes of the beholder, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm just pointing that out. That's all.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. So we're back again as to whether anybody would like to make a motion for approval of the site plan, approval or disapproval of the site plan according to the terms filed.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan.
And I'd second it.
Motion made by Richard Rossetti, second by Fred Gilbert. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Site plan and special permit are both approved. And that resolves this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the next item on the agenda is an application by Falk Renewables. And this is a continuation of an open public hearing relative to a special permit and site plan for a solar array that is located at 5062 North Eagle Village Road, Manlius. More particularly, tax map number 98-1-15. The public hearing is currently still open. Is there anyone present who wants to identify themselves and speak relative to this public hearing on this solar array?
My name is Teddy Epstein. I'd like to speak, please.
Proceed forward.
Thank you. My name is Teddy Epstein. I'm the Business Development Director at Novus Renewables. And what was requested of us by the board during the last meeting was that we reach out to Mr. Winchell, who lives at 5190 Townsend Road, and also Ms. Young, who lives at 5212 Townsend Road, to try to come up with a plan so that there was screening for this project. We believed that Ms. Young had a reasonable request of 15 mature, and that what is mature, what is not mature, of course, is subjective, blue spruce trees on her property. That's something that we believe is a reasonable request. When Tony Delia, who's our legal counsel, spoke to Mr. Winchell, he asked for 100 trees on his and his neighbor's property, and had also said that he spoke for Miss Young. So we called up one of the companies that he told, those were, 12-foot blue spruces, just to give everyone an idea of what a blue spruce is. At maturity, they'll grow between 12 and 20 feet, and they will be between 6 and 10 feet wide. So we called one of the companies that was given to us by Mr. Winchell, called Aspinall, for a tree of 12 feet to be installed. It is with a warranty that it will stay alive. It is $1,200. Multiply that by 100, it's $120,000. I do not believe that that is an appropriate response to the problem, and I think it's overkill. If you look at any colonial home that's around. Each room is about 12 feet. I grew up in a colonial, so I'm very familiar with them. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and say there's 4 rooms in the front of the house, which usually there's a room, a foyer, and another room. So let's just say it's 48 feet, which is 4 times 12. If you divide 48 by the smallest amount, right, which is your 6 foot wide at maturity, you're really talking about 8 trees. And if you did 2 rows of 8 trees, that's 16 trees. So Miss Young was really on the number, in my opinion, of what we need. And I'd also like to state that Ronald and Beth Powell live at 5090 on North Eagle, said they could see the project, and they also said they were in support of it. So I think that was glazed over last time. I would request that the board make a motion to close the public meeting and give us a ruling on what they think we should do with the screening per the town code. Thank you very much.
Just so I am clear, Teddy, is it my understanding that you are indicating the applicant is willing to put in 15 mature blue spruce?
I would like to do something smaller than a 12-foot blue spruce because it's more affordable. And, you know, I'm not an arborist, but I know enough about trees. And I think everyone has done some landscaping at their homes to know that the larger the tree, the less likely it is to survive. So
Yeah.
something that's more realistic is a smaller tree that grows in. I think that's the best solution. But again, I leave it up to the board. I think in terms of the numbers I gave you, we think there's a reasonable amount of money that should be used on screening versus an unreasonable amount for a project like this that applies or that meets the solar ordinance of the town.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein.
Thank you, Mr. Lubia.
Before we do anything else, is there anyone else present who wanted to speak regarding this project?
Yeah, I'd like to say something, Joe.
Yes, Arnie.
As far as the trees grow, I think it's a great idea to put them on the property of the people who have the view. I think that's very creative and a much better solution than trying to plant 100 saplings along the border. The only thing I could think of, Teddy, that might be helpful is that rather than going to George Aspinall and asking him for blue spruces, you might ask him what he would recommend in the form of an evergreen that is both hardy and native to this part of the country. Because I don't think the blue spruce is the happiest camper in this part of the world. Just a thought.
Yeah, something indigenous to the area would be better.
Yep.
This was just in response. This was what was suggested to us by Mr. Winchell. So I did as the board asked, and our team brought back our findings and thought that we would let you know what he said. So I understand we can absolutely do that. It could be some sort of a condition to approval using a native species of a certain size and potential growth, width, and fullness. And we'd be happy to do that.
Good.
Okay. Is there anyone else present who wanted to speak?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Richard, second by Mike. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye. Aye.
Public hearing is hereby closed. So folks, what I'd like to do is just have a discussion, a brief discussion amongst us as to what we feel would be appropriate to mitigate. And I'd be wrong if I didn't put my own 2 cents in. I'm of the thought that a solar array is almost like a cemetery. It's quiet neighbors. They're not going to make any ruckus. And whether you're used to it or not depends on the individual. It's part of life. It's part of the community. And the solar array is part of our future as far as our renewable energies go. So I guess I am not extremely concerned about that, although I think the idea of mitigating it for the benefit of the adjoining neighbors is not a bad idea at all. So what are your recommendations, folks, and what would you like to do?
I think it's a great idea that they went and talked to the neighbors. I don't know, and Jamie, you can jump in because I'm kind of going in uncharted waters for me anyway. I don't know if we can require an applicant to plant trees on somebody else's property. I think it's a great idea. The applicant wants to do it. There may have to be a formal agreement to allow them to do that. But if that helps them financially, I think it makes sense.
So as long as the applicant consents, which they appear to have done, then we can certainly make it a condition contingent upon them having a reasonable dialogue with the neighbor, because ultimately the neighbor has to consent as well. And if they come back and say, well, the neighbor wouldn't consent or, you know, wanted something unreasonable, then we would have to eliminate that condition. So if there's something different that can be done on their own property, that would be preferable, but I haven't not heard that that's the case. But yes.
I guess what I'm saying, do we need a formal document for our files between Mr. Winchell or whoever it is, just so that we have proof that they agreed to, they approved putting the trees on their property?
We would not need that.
Okay, all right.
So there wouldn't be any legal ramifications here?
If the applicant consents, but they come back to us and say that they could not obtain the consent of the neighbor, then we would have to relieve them of that obligation. If that were in fact true, right? So, yes.
Makes sense.
Because I think from the applicant's standpoint, if they could print, or if they could put, you know, 7 or 8 trees on the 2 or 3 properties that have a problem and not plant 100, it may make a lot of sense.
Yep.
It also
Yes, I
takes
mean, you
care of
could also,
It also takes care of another problem we haven't even talked about, and that's between Townsend Road and the subject area that's going to be the solar array. There's a very large field, and I don't know how that's zoned or what's going to happen to it, but if you want to protect the view from your house, that's going to protect whatever happens in the future on the north side of Townsend Road as well.
Right.
Yep.
I'd like to say a word for blue spruce. When I moved into my house in Manlius, my next door neighbor had gotten 100 blue spruce seedlings and he put them everywhere. He gave them to all the neighbors. And first thing that I had to do was to move a lot of those because they were too close to the house and they were just in too confined an area. And I moved several that were about 5 or 7 feet tall, a little bit taller than me. And they all lived, you know, and I did it all with just a shovel and a wheelbarrow. It was main strength and awkwardness kind of a thing. And I don't think I think blue spruce is a pretty good choice, quite frankly. I think they would do fine over there. But I'm not, no, that's my expertise. One episode.
What about putting some trees along the road?
Which road?
North Eagle Village.
Well, Ann, what was your concern about the proximity of the solar array to the road itself? We had talked about possibly pushing it farther to the east.
Pushing what to the east?
The solar array, because right now it's practically right up against North Eagle Village Road.
Right. And it's going to be further away?
So one of the concerns was, I think, I forget whether it was you or Rich suggested, why don't we move it to the east so that it's not sitting right next to the road?
That's not bad. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it was Ann that talked to us about taking maybe the first 2 rows of panels out and moving it further back.
Yeah, we
So
talked about
Mr.
that last
Epstein, I
time.
think the question goes, I think the question goes to Mr. Epstein, is whether he is able to do that.
I think it's important to note that we're within the zoning code requirements for solar projects too. This is not a 30-mile-an-hour road. We've done our glare studies. There's no glare effect. We've done our view shed analysis. The visual effect that we have heard from the public was not from North Eagle Village Road. It was from Townsend. Teddy and his attorneys have done, I mean, they've gone above and beyond, I think, in meeting in the last 2 weeks with those concerned landowners. The project was designed to the zoning ordinance. It is within that code.
Doug, have you gotten the glare studies that she's discussing?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Personally, I don't have a problem with the panels being where you've asked them to be. Mr. Winchell had a suggestion that back where he can actually see the panels, if you could separate them. Now, I don't know if he gets the trees on his property, if that takes that concern away, but that, I'm not sure if you had that discussion with him. And this goes to Teddy.
Yes, the answer is that that was a suggestion from Mr. Winchell. For us, it's really not an option. Our project is based on a certain footprint that fits on this property in a very certain way that allows us to meet our goals financially. And we would like to keep the layout as is.
Okay. So
And
Jane,
from an electrical standpoint too, when you start just putting breaks or just removing rows in a system, it messes with the electrical configuration. You can't just take rows out without reformatting the project. It seems that easy on paper, but it's really not.
okay, and that's fair, because I don't know anything about it. The suggestion that he had seemed reasonable, but if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Jamie, getting back, and I'm still a little bit concerned about planting trees on somebody else's property. If we approve the site plan with planting trees on somebody's property, can we make it contingent on that? So if it doesn't happen, the site plan is not approved?
I think that what you would want to do is talk about a mitigation that would be on their own property as an alternative. Or if you're saying that it's, you know, can this landowner hold up this project is really the question. Because the applicant has agreed, and that would be in the resolution, and that it will be done. And if the landowner does not agree, then they've effectively held up the project, unless you have another contingency saying, well, then you got to plant your 100 trees on your own property or something. But I haven't heard anything that indicates the 100 trees are going to help anybody.
No, I don't, I mean, specifically planted trees, I think will help. 100 trees, personally, I'm not sure what that does. But I guess what I'm just looking at the next step. If we approve the site plan contingent on them getting trees planted on the Winchell property, and it doesn't happen, then they have to come back for another site plan approval.
I would suggest
May
that
I?
that would not be the resolution.
Well, Rich, I have a question on top of that question. What happens if the trees they plant die? How do they get replaced?
I believe they were going to get guarantees from the arborist.
And you know, Mike, if it's a 1-year warranty or 2-year warranty, it's out of I believe it would be out of our hands. But we haven't even done the special use permit yet. So that's kind of another discussion, I guess.
Well, Jamie, couldn't we move forward with an understanding that the mature trees will be planted in the neighbor's yard if they consent, and if they don't consent, then the mature trees would be planted on this applicant's property?
That would be what I would recommend. Something like that.
Okay.
And I guess we have to define what a mature tree is then.
Mr. Epstein, have you got an idea what a mature tree could be defined as?
I'll put my arborist hat on. The one conversation we had with Aspinall was that the quantity of trees, 12-foot blue spruces, couldn't be like completely procured until sometime in like late 2021, just because such a large tree. In my opinion, if we're thinking about this from a practical standpoint, and we're talking about a property where we're trying to block the first floor where people live, I don't know if the second floor when people sleep. You know, an 8-foot tree is a tree that we could easily purchase and we think has a better chance of living even after the warranty or the guarantee, as you might call it, is over. I think that's a reasonable size, and it'll grow in over time, of course.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Teddy, can I ask you another question?
Yes.
Another issue came up over the last week or so about flash flooding.
Yes.
And I think a video was sent to you. And I'm just
Yes.
curious on the impact that would have on whatever foundations hold these panels in place, what the impact would be, what could happen. And what's your take on that?
Teddy, you want me to take this one?
I would like that. Thank you.
Okay.
If you don't mind, Rich, we do the stormwater engineering controls and the analysis as part of our site design. So when I say it's not so simple as just taking out a couple of rows, I mean that for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things that the applicant is required to do, not only for Manlius, but for New York State, is before construction, they have to have a stormwater pollution prevention control plan. And that essentially prohibits them from increasing stormwater runoff at the site and adjoining properties. So, you know, it's a big, thick permit that is issued for these sites and for any construction site or any commercial property. It essentially, you know, to sum it up, it says that you have to either have the site be at the same amount of runoff or less during and after construction. So
Jody, I'm very familiar with that. I understand that. I guess my concern is there is flash flooding that takes place on the site now, and what impact would that have on whatever the foundations or however these things are placed in the ground, on top of the ground? What impact would that have?
Got it.
Let me interject, Jody. This is an area that North Eagle Village Road gets closed on an annual basis. I don't know if you could appreciate what was sent there, but some of the residents did send some photos, and it's not uncommon to have, you know, a foot of water going across that field. So I think that's the only concern, right? And I, you know, to that point, I think you can mitigate that, but you know, I think it was twofold. One is, you know, how do you secure the units in place, and then secondly, you know, you know, to move forward with your design, you know, those electrical connections should be protected against that stormwater. So I mean, I think that's the only concern. I don't think there's an issue that it can't be mitigated, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't tell you what goes on there. And honestly, before I worked in the town of Manlius, I'd never seen this phenomenon before. But it comes on fast, and it's gone within 30 minutes. But when it comes on, you know, I don't know if you grew up in the area and you're over that way, but when we get a good rainstorm, like the other day, what we had here in town, we had 4.5 inches in less than an hour, and that's when we got honestly, there was a foot of water across that, that area. And Ann lives over there. She's seen it before, and Rich lives in the area too. In fact, Rich's house was right across the road where, 173 was shut down for 4 hours too. So we just wanted to pass that along and make sure that that's mitigated somehow. That's all.
Understood. I did grow up in the area, and my parents live over there now, and I know this phenomenon that you're talking about. It's a flash flood. The project is designed to withstand that, and before it would be built, we would do a full geotechnical study where we figure out exactly how to get these posts into the subsurface so that they don't float away. I mean, that's in nobody's best interest if these things fall over, especially not Teddy's there, right? I mean, he doesn't want this thing to float away. So we go through the same amount of due diligence before we build as we do before this part of the process. It turns into a structural analysis versus an environmental analysis at that point. And we figure out, how deep do we need to drive them in? Or do we need to use screws? What do we need to do to secure them? And that is all done based on scientific and engineering strategies they're beyond me. I'm not an engineer. So.
And then I think the other thing is, you described putting the inverters on the back of the panels,
Yeah.
which I think is a great idea, right? But when you get down to making your final connections and going back into your interconnect, I think there should be some, I don't want to say concern, but right. So
protection, right?
Somebody should look at, code requirements, because it's probably at this location, with some assurity, that's really not something that you could probably easily lay on top of the ground like you do in a lot of the solar arrays, right?
Yeah, that's well noted. These things are made to withstand heavy rains, heavy ice and thaw melts. Actually, solar projects do really, really well in parts of the world, like Syracuse area, Manlius. That cold, snowy weather is really, really good. So they're designed, and the wiring is designed to do well with its underground, its protections that come along with it. And again, those are not only protected by the town's code, but there's also federal requirements for electrical supplies to these things. So, and also the developers' wishes that they maintain operational use.
Yeah, if I might add just one point here. Right now, the land is currently being farmed in rotational crop use by Mr. Shapiro, and he compacts the ground for his business, is what he told me. So what we're going to put in is dirt and a pollinator species, which is going to absorb more groundwater than it would while he was farming it and compacting the soils. So that should not adversely, but positively impact the water flowing.
That's right.
Okay,
folks,
I appreciate
we had a
you
real good
answering.
discussion, but it's time to move forward. Jamie,
Thank
can you
you.
lead us through the special permit conditions?
Yes.
And folks, speak up if you feel anything pertains to this. Let us know if you object, folks.
Is this plan in the community, in this plan, is the community protected from traffic congestion and conflicts, flooding and excessive soil erosion, unnecessary noise, lighting and odors, wasteful energy use, and other forms of pollution?
Yes.
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 This plan protect the community from inappropriate design and other matters of scenic and aesthetic significance?
Yes.
Yes.
Does the plan ensure that the proposed use will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is proposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Can any adverse impacts be mitigated by compliance with reasonable conditions?
Yes.
Yes.
What are those conditions? What are the adverse impacts and what are the conditions?
The view shed and the trees that they've agreed to plant.
Yep.
Does the project conform with the town's planning goals and objectives?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So the last question is, what are the conditions that would be attached to this special permit?
And I don't know the number of trees, but I would say that we need to have mature trees that protect the view shed of the people living on Townsend. Whether it's on their property, the applicant's property, wherever they are, they need to be planted.
Rich, I have a real problem with that, with the word mature, because a mature blue spruce is a big tree. You know, I've got some on this lot and they're God, 30, 40 feet tall.
Well, I think they defined mature, and Teddy, correct me if I'm wrong, you were saying 8 feet plus or minus was a mature tree, your definition?
Mature enough to block the view shed. They will grow as Mr. Gilbert indicated to it. I mean, a size that I can't tell you exactly how big it's going to grow because it's a tree.
Very
The
big.
8 feet are the ones that you can readily obtain, correct?
I believe that the ones that are readily obtained grow between 12 and 20, but I'm not.
No, I mean
I'm
the
not
size to start, the starting size.
8 feet can be between 8 and 10 feet are readily obtained.
That should work.
Okay.
That would be a good descriptor.
Good.
And I don't think they need to be all the way down Townsend. I think they just need to be able to block the view shed of the people that live on Townsend. But I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah.
Well, ideally, it sounds like if they put them on the property of the people that are worried about the view, that would be the best thing, but that's not part of the project, actually.
And not every person on Townsend is going to want those trees, because at least one of those homes can't see the solar array winter or summer because their own trees block everything.
Exactly, yeah.
I think we're limiting the trees to the two parties who have spoken out about it, and they were identified by Mr. Epstein today.
Mm-hmm.
So with respect to what we're going to do and the efforts to mitigate by screening, by the planting of mature 8-foot trees, can we entertain a motion to approve the special permit?
I'll make that motion.
We should, Joe, that specific condition should be part of the special permit in an exacting way.
So we have to identify the number?
Yes, that the special permit is conditioned upon, I would say, working with the neighbors, Young and Winchell's, to place 8-foot blue spruce trees, no greater in number than X number on their property. And if that cannot be done, that number of trees would go on the property of the applicant.
There had been discussion of 15 trees originally.
Per household?
I don't know. Mr. Epstein?
That was what I was going to bring up, and I apologize for interrupting you, Ms. Sutphin. Ms. Young at 5212 Townsend suggested 15 mature blue spruces. We're happy with anything near that number.
So are we talking then 15 at each property, I guess, the two properties that we're talking about, total of 30 trees? 8 foot tall?
Yeah, if you're asking me the question, Mr. Rossetti, the answer is yes.
Okay, well then folks, that would be the special condition attached.
And if in the event the cooperation of either the Youngs or Winchell's cannot be obtained, would the trees go elsewhere?
my own opinion is the special use permit is approved with the trees on the applicant's property. And if they can convince the Winchells or the other people to put them on their property, so be it. That would be a better alternative, but we may not be able to get them to approve.
Well, as of right now, they sounded like they were sort of in favor of doing that.
It sounds like the Winchells are, but you never know, Fred, and you never know what might happen.
That's true.
Yes, that's why I'm saying that it would be the condition that the trees would go on, but if they were not able to get the cooperation of those neighbors, then what?
Then they would have to
It was
go
on
on
the applicant's property.
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
just that number, 30 or more?
I don't see a
I would
need.
say it's a maximum.
Yeah, I don't see a need for more than that. I mean, they don't have to put it down that whole street, Townsend Road, because there's nobody else there. But
Okay.
Ann, this is your motion.
So no trees on, if those 30 trees can go on the Winchell and Young's properties, then no trees required on the applicant's property at all?
Correct.
Right.
That's, yes. But
Yes.
this is Ann's motion.
Well, so I'm still in favor of trees on the site itself, but you can't have everything, I guess.
All right, going back to the special permit. I'm still entertaining a motion that we're still working through. This is a motion by Ann to approve the special permit on the condition of 15 8-foot blue spruce be placed on the neighbor's property, and if that permission is not granted, it would be placed on the applicant's property. Is that right, Ann?
Yes, directly in front of the house so that they're protected somehow, somewhat.
I'll second that.
Richard seconds the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries relative to the special permit. With respect to the site plan, I would entertain a motion.
I think it needs to be similar to what we just did. I think, Joe, that it's contingent on those trees being planted somewhere.
So the site plan as submitted and as modified with respect to the screening by the placement of the 15 8-foot blue spruce on each of the 2 adjoining properties or on the applicant's property. Is that it, Richard?
That's my motion, yep.
Second that.
Second by Michael Roy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The special permit and site plan approval is approved on the conditions set forth tonight. Thank you, applicant, for trying to work this out. We appreciate your efforts.
Thank you,
very
Jody and
much.
Teddy.
Thank you to the board. Thank you very much.
We are moving on. And the next is an application by Sarah Williams, known as the Village Groomer. And this is with regard to property located at 8064 East Genesee Street, Fayetteville. And more particularly, we are continuing an open public hearing with respect to a special permit and site plan for dog grooming. We have an open public hearing. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak relative to the open public hearing?
Allison, pull up the application.
I do not see, let me just answer this first. I do not see anything in the Q&A. And I also do not see anything on Facebook regarding that. I will
Motion to
work
close
on
the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Michael Roy made a motion, second by Richard Rossetti. All in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is hereby closed. My recollection is we've already done SECRA. So we would now go through the criteria of the special permit.
I'm wondering if we can pull up the plan, because I think got some refreshed plans.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I'm working on that right now. Jamie, is that what you were looking for?
That was it. Yes.
There's
Thank you.
another later plan that's 8.5 by 11 that accompanied the latest answers to the questions from the last meeting, which deals with the entrance. This will work, but this is in concept. The only thing that we changed is eliminated that pergola effect, and I widened the walkway. Attached to, there we go. And the only other issue was the water test. And as I mentioned in the letter, Sarah's attorney approached Kinsella's, and we haven't heard a thing, but they share the well. So they're using it now for their domestic use.
Are you renting this property or are you buying it?
Buying.
Buying. Okay. Because it says here the lease with her current landlord is scheduled to be renewed at the end of this month.
She's getting nervous.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's all it was. She'll work something out month to month until she can occupy. And I think I said probably 3 months, something like that. Inside just needs finishes. There are no floor finishes. Some of them have to be leveled, has to be painted. They've got
How
some
many-
work to do on the soffits, want to paint the building or stain the building. I gave colors for stain, a dark brown. And I think what we're going to try to do, because you'll never match the garage door, the stain, and the pre-engineered wood. We'll try to match the pre-engineered wood in the garage door and then make the building the same brown but a little darker. Because if you miss, it looks like you missed by a mile. But if you're close, it looks intentional.
How many parking spaces are going to be in the driveway or whatever it's called?
Just the two of them. The other is for drop off and pickup. Nobody, just two groomers, Sarah and somebody who works for her, and they're on the side of the garage.
Is there enough room? And I apologize because I don't have the original plan with me. I've got what you're showing me, but is there enough room for a car to turn around so they're not backing out onto Route 5?
Oh, absolutely. You bear with me, I'll give you that dimension. I can't pull up from memory.
Yeah, that looked fine, Rich. I looked at that.
You looked at that? Okay.
48 feet. The car is,
Okay.
you know,
All right.
20 something after 18. But yeah, I did that on purpose because it is rather high speed over there.
Right. Okay. That's,
Anyone else have questions of the applicant? Okay, we started to go over the prerequisites for the special permit.
wait a minute.
Yes.
Joe, are we still in a public hearing?
Now, I thought we closed the public hearing.
Okay,
It's closed.
okay.
Was there any discussion about signage?
Yes, there was, and I also in this package showed relocating her existing sign, which is under the smaller than the requirements, and going to put it in adjacent to the garage door where there's currently a window. That window's coming out and it'll frame the sign, and it's not intended to be illuminated.
That was included in the original package, folks. We've seen what the sign looks like.
It's
And
18 by 30. It will not be illuminated.
And what were the hours of operation, just to refresh my memory?
7:30, 5:30, 5 days a week.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other need for discussion, folks? Jamie,
So,
special
yes.
permit?
Thank you. Will the project have an adverse effect on adjacent lands, the immediate neighborhood, or on the character of the community?
No,
No.
Is the plan protected from traffic congestion and conflicts, flooding and excessive soil erosion, unnecessary noise, lighting and odors, wasteful energy use, and other forms of pollution?
I'm
Yes.
trying to think if that's a yes or a no.
It's
Is
a
the
yes.
community protected?
It's a yes. Okay.
Yes, it's a yes.
Does the plan protect the community from inappropriate design and other matters of scenic and aesthetic significance?
Yes.
Yes.
Does the plan ensure that the proposed use will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is proposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Can any adverse impacts be mitigated by compliance with reasonable conditions? Are there any conditions that would be added?
There's none that I can think of.
I can't think of an adverse impact.
All right.
And does the project conform with the town's planning goals and objectives?
Yes.
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 The only condition I could think of putting on this are the hours of operation. The applicant says 7:30 to 5 or 5:30, 5 days a week. It should be put in this special use permit.
That is permissible to put that in the permit if it's necessary.
I would entertain a motion relative to the special permit.
I'll make a motion to approve the special permit with the condition that the hours of operation are 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Friday.
I'll second that.
Second by Arnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I would entertain a motion relative to site plan approval.
I'll make a motion to approve site plan.
Second.
Second by Michael Roy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, the special permit and site plan is approved for the dog grooming business, 8064 East Genesee Street. Thank you to the applicant and the architect who's been presenting this each time.
Yep, perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He appreciates it, and so do I. And it'll improve things.
I think it's already improving.
Thanks, Joe. Good night.
Aye.
Good night. The next item on our agenda, folks, is the application relative to 5538 North Burdick Street. We had opened a public hearing relative to site plan, and this is for the dental office at that address, tax map number 86-2-7.1. We currently have an open public hearing. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak relative to this public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Oh,
There
we have
is a
two
hand.
hands raised. Yep. Go
Pardon?
ahead.
There's a hand raised.
There's a couple of them. Allison, can you see them?
Yep, I can see one hand raised. Did you want me to allow the citizen to talk, or did you want the Q&A function?
Personally, I prefer that they talk.
Okay, I will allow them to talk. Hold on one moment. This is, so I'm allowing, unfortunately, there's not a name on here. It just says concerned citizen. Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Identify who you are?
Yes, this is Scott Dillingham. I've been a victim of identity theft earlier this year, and I am petrified of Zoom, the platform, and the whole process. So I appreciate being able to speak. I understand your concern about anonymity, but please bear in mind, this is also an anonymous LLC proposing this project. But I'm revealing my name. I'm a commercial property owner in Fayetteville.
Okay. And what did you want to tell us?
Well, I guess my first question might be to Mr. Miller. I understand after speaking with Chris Deitman that the LLC has revised their sewage discharge daily estimate from 4,000 gallons a day to now 6,500. And Mr. Miller, is that something that the 2-to-1 offset has been worked out, or what is the status of that? And does the board realize the immense size of this project being proposed for an RM zoned parcel?
As of August 3rd, the town of Manlius no longer controls their sewage system. That is a function of a lease agreement that they have entered into with Onondaga County. So I would look to Mr. Deitman for the offset plans, but those offset plans are 2-to-1 and would have to be accommodated accordingly. But as far as what we had seen previously, the connection was a single lateral, looked like a 2-inch force main going into a manhole, and with discussions with Mr. Deitman at WEP, there was capacity for what they had proposed. The only question that remains is what type of form that 2-to-1 offset would take the form of. And we have been in discussions with the applicant about that requirement. So they're fully aware of that as they move forward.
Is it okay to speak? I don't know if am I doing this correctly?
We can hear you, Mr. Dillingham.
Thank you, Mr. Lupia. So you are aware that they have increased their daily estimate to 6,500 gallons per day, and that would require a 13,000 gallon per day sewage offset somewhere downstream in the system?
Yes, yes. And that would be a function of coordination with Mr. Deitman's group.
So I guess my request to the board would be that those details be ironed out before any determination, because if it's found out after the fact that they cannot meet that 13,000 gallons per day offset, then they will get shut down. And I think you'll be looking at lots of legal issues. So that would be, I guess, one.
Yes, Mr. Dillingham, just for your information, that is a number that would seem to be attainable by the applicant. We've had other projects of similar size and scope that have been met that requirement in the past.
Okay, just hoping that that in fact gets followed through prior to the board making that decision. I think, you know, the other areas of concern, the LLC is proposing a stormwater retention pond. They're adjacent to the Erie Canal. And I don't know if any of you have walked the site, but there is an extremely steep cliff that leads down to the quarry lake below. And all of these are certainly potential hazards to children that you know, are inquisitive and attracted to water and so forth. Has the LLC come up with any plans for preventing mishaps from happening?
We've done an initial review of the SWIP. We are still reviewing the SWIP. However, inherent to the SWIP that the applicant has provided to the town of Manlius, there are requirements in the New York State DEC manual for safety benches and the like. And the applicant has also provided coordination of the site plan with SHPO and the Erie Canal.
I'm not sure just what the drop off is down to that quarry lake below, but it, you know, it's a very, very steep embankment, and you know,
that's an existing site condition, and there does not appear to be any modifications being made there by the applicant.
So does that concern the board that children could potentially fall down that cliff? Or if there's water in this retention pond, which based on the square footage of the project and the parking area, it sounds like it probably will have water most of the time.
Mr. Dillingham, we're always concerned about children and the welfare of children. But this particular project, you know, you can't isolate a particular property and make it absolutely, totally free of any danger or hazard. This is a pre-existing natural condition of the land. If children are wandering off loose, unattended, and unchaperoned by their parents, I'd be shocked. We're talking in terms of parents caring for their children. I'll be honest with you, I am not concerned personally as chairman. I am not concerned the way you seem to be about the contour of this land and the project itself.
Well, I'm a retired dentist, and one of our patients during a school field trip fell down Chittenango Falls. So under supervision, she somehow got on the wrong side of a barricade, and you know, we were asked to try to put teeth back where bone wasn't even in existence. She was lucky to have survived. So you know, we all know that unexpected things can happen. I was just actually directing the question more to Mr. Dumas as to whether the LLC had any protective measures, any barricades, anything of that nature, just to minimize these potential risks.
Question.
It's not
Public
part of the
hearing.
project.
Sorry. Question in the public hearing need to be addressed to the board, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally am unaware of the process, so I apologize for that.
And then the board can ask the applicant if they desire.
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Dillingham, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
You know, the only other issue is basically the size. I'm in agreement with the board as to it not resembling a single-family residence. The size, 27 dental chairs, makes this the largest dental clinic in Onondaga County. and they're trying to put it on an RM zone parcel. In previous discussions, there have been, I guess, trying to compare other nearby properties, but every single time those comparisons have been with commercially zoned properties. And I'm referring specifically to the front yard parking rule that's already been, I understand it's already been dealt with, but that now requires another variance as far as a sign, because under RM zoning, it says that you're limited only to a sign attached to the building, 8 square feet in size. So that'll
Mr.
be.
Dillingham, this sign permit is not part of this procedure. The applicant did not submit anything relative to a sign, so that is not being considered.
Okay, their site plan shows a roadside monument sign is where I'm kind of referring to.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
You may.
Does this concerned citizen have any involvement with the LLC or the dentists that are proposing this?
Yes. I found out just who the LLC is, and
so it's not an anonymous LLC like you said earlier.
Well, not to me.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Dillingham, are you all set?
Just I guess the last question that I would like to hope that the board will ask the LLC is, will all 4 dentists be working simultaneously at this facility 5 days a week? Because 27 dental chairs for 4 doctors really is just hard to wrap your head around as far as the size.
Mr. Dillingham, this is Rich Rossetti again. That has nothing to do with what we're looking at and approving tonight.
Well, I guess if you take the formula of 27 dental chairs, 1 dentist, 1 to 2 assistants per dentist, and 1 patient, and then, so that would be 4 times 27 dental chairs. That would come to 108, not including front office staff. That supposedly, I'm guessing by their site plan, would be approximately 8 front office people. That would require 116 parking spaces. The parking spaces have been reduced now to 80, which certainly decreases their impervious percentages there. But I don't understand the math. The size of the project and the number of dentists, and it's trying to be fit on a non-commercially zoned property. To me, I'm just not understanding the board's reasoning in allowing basically commercially zoned rules be applied to an RM zone parcel.
Could I ask another question? Mr. Dillingham, do you live in the town of Manlius?
I do not. I live in Cazenovia. I own commercial property in Fayetteville.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dillingham.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We will we'll take them into consideration.
Thank you.
Allison, is there somebody else who wanted to comment?
I do not see anything at the moment in the Q&A or on Facebook.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second.
Motion made by Richard Rossetti and second by Ann Kelly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is hereby closed. Folks, we normally do secret before we do a public hearing, but in this case, we did not do secret specifically because the front parking was being addressed by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we did not want to surpass the Zoning Board of Appeals. So at this time, I would like to do secret. Jamie?
Yes, this was a long form EAF, so strap in and we'll go through the questions.
Jamie, before we go through the questions
Yes.
on the secret, is it appropriate at this time to ask questions of the applicant vis-a-vis the plantings along the road?
It's
That would
always
be,
appropriate. Go ahead.
Okay. One of the concerns about this property from day one has been that it's visible from the road once it's built, and that we're going to see the parking lot instead of the building, even though we've approved the building being behind the parking. My question is that in your diagram, L300, you've given nothing at the front on the Burdick Street side that shields the people on the road driving by from the parking lot. And it strikes me that that's the perfect place to put a barrier of trees. And I would suggest that you've got several large deciduous trees, you know, on the right side of the driveway, but you don't have the deciduous trees blocking the parking area. And I would like to suggest that you plant a row of evergreen trees to block the view so that people aren't confronted by looking at your 80 parking places as they drive by on Burdick Street. And that way, all the objections to people who say, I don't want to see this, would be taken care of. You've taken care of it along the Erie Canal. You've taken care of it along the northeast boundary, but you haven't taken care of it on the Burdick Street side. And that was my only question.
Arnie, if you go to Plan L400.
400, okay.
Not that it's a row of trees, but there are some plantings.
We do have, yeah, at the entrance, we have the large trees along the front. And then in addition, there is a pretty steep grade change. So as you're driving down North Burdick, you're really looking for the most part over the parking lot because of the grade change.
Okay. All right, that takes care of my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question, though, Arnie. Thank you. Okay, we're back to secret.
okay. Here is the question, number 1. The proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go down the questions. Whether it's a small or impact or a moderate to large impact. The proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet.
No.
No.
Proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater.
No.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Doug, you can pipe up every now and then, Doug, if you think you've got an answer for us.
He's on mute. He doesn't care.
There you go, Rich. There you go.
The proposed action
Going
may
through the
involve the
drawings.
excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material.
No.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases.
No.
No.
Proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides.
No.
No.
The proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area.
No.
Next question. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique, unusual landforms on the site, such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, and caves.
No.
No.
Impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. Example, streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes.
No.
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 Impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer.
No.
No.
Impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding.
No.
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 Impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source.
No.
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 Impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna.
No.
Limited.
Yeah, it's some, but yeah.
Okay, so we'll answer that yes. So next question. The proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species.
No.
No.
Proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species.
No.
No.
Proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need.
No.
No.
The proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any species or special concern.
No.
No.
The proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered national natural landmark.
No.
The proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community.
No.
No.
Proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site.
No.
No.
Isn't that the bat? Aren't the bats there? Isn't that a bat site?
Well, for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site, I wouldn't say they're the dominant species.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay. The proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or other regionally or locally important habitat.
No.
The proposed action involves use of herbicides or pesticides.
No.
No.
Impact on natural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources.
No.
No.
Impact on aesthetic resources. The land
No.
use proposed are obviously different from or in sharp contrast current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource.
No.
Impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource.
No.
No.
Impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan.
No.
No.
Impact on critical environmental areas. Is it adjacent to any critical environmental area or in
No.
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 Impact on transportation. It may result in a change to existing transportation systems.
No.
No.
Impact
Minor.
on energy.
Well, will it?
Well,
Will it cause a stop there?
Well, transportation systems to me means public transportation. I don't think this will have any impact.
well, it also talks about whether there's going to be an increase in traffic that might exceed the capacity of the road.
No.
No.
So if I'm a patient taking a bus, does that cause a bus stop to be created there?
So
Even if it does, is that significant?
Just asking.
Yeah,
Well, We can answer that. We can answer that the proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. We can answer yes. And then the questions are, is there a projected traffic increase may exceed the capacity of existing roadwork?
No.
No.
Proposed action may result in the construction of paved parking area for 500 or more vehicles.
No.
No.
The proposed action will degrade existing transit access. There's your question.
No. It's not. No.
The proposed action will degrade existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations.
Nope.
No.
The proposed action may alter the present pattern of movement of people or goods.
No.
No.
Okay, next question, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy.
I guess the answer is yes, but not significant.
It would be little.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to use more energy, but not significant.
We'll answer that yes, and the question is, will the proposed action require a new or an upgrade to an existing substation?
No.
Will it create 50 single or two-family residences to serve a commercial or industrial use? An energy system. Proposed action may utilize more than 2,500 megawatts per year of electricity.
I hope not. No.
So,
No.
okay. The proposed action may involve heating and or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area when completed.
No.
Impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
No.
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 Impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants.
No.
No.
No. Hopefully this is a positive impact on health.
Consistency with community plans. Is the proposed action consistent with adopted community use plans?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, you're marking that it's a no on that one. I read it backwards. Consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character.
No.
No.
Okay. Given there were either no or small or moderate impacts on all questions, the chair can entertain a motion for a negative seeker declaration.
And I would entertain a motion.
I'll make
Richard,
a motion for negative deck.
Second.
Motion made by Richard, second by Michael Roy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Negative declaration. Have you folks seen the new drawings relative to the exterior of the building?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Want to pull them up, Allison?
Okay, I heard one no. Can the applicant just give us in a very short and concise statement what the build, there you go. Thank you.
Sure, I'll hit it just really quick if I could, and then I'll let Madonna take over. And thank you again for your patience with this project. After receiving some very direct feedback in the July 27th Planning Board meeting, we spent time reviewing local dental practices as advised, and first settled on a color scheme not unlike Dr. Henderson's up in 92, a dark clapboard followed by some lighter stone. Following that meeting, the initial color scheme was gray clap, like a dark gray clapboard with a very light base stone on the base of the building and building columns. After discussions with suppliers, we had concern of being able to obtain that product, never mind even samples for this discussion. And in that the design reflected in the rendering here, we have confidence we'd be able to obtain these materials so everybody knows this is an ongoing issue in the area. In that, the rendering you see, the color and design scheme we're proposing, I'll let Madonna speak to the details of it, but I believe we're presenting this evening as a much more residential feel than that was previously shown in the last planning board meeting. Madonna, if you want to take over.
Thanks, Scott. So as Scott said, we did hear what was said at the July 27th board meeting, and we took a whole fresh look at for the residential scale. So we reduced the scale. I'm going to flip over to the other image. This is just the image of driving down the road. So we reduced the scale of the main entrance and revised it to be a gable entrance with a canopy to mimic a residential entry. We added stone column wraps and wood beams at the main entrance, and then we have replicated this entry at a smaller scale to the secondary entrances and exits. We've added shutters to the windows to give a more residential feel. And we revised the stone to be a more local stone selection. It's going to be a limestone-like product along the front of the building and have fiberglass reinforced siding above. The materials and colors selected are consistent with residential exterior finishes. And then we've added a chimney for aesthetic purposes only to soften the line of the roof. So based on this, the July 27th board recommendations and looking at area existing buildings in the area, we've revised our building to look more residential in feel and hope that this is acceptable now to the board.
That artificial stone?
Yes.
I don't know if you guys can see me. I'm holding it. It doesn't feel very artificial holding it up in the air. But this is essentially what it looks like.
I can't see it.
Can't see you.
Oh, because we're on a screen. There you are.
Available anywhere, anytime. Certainly doesn't feel like fake stone holding.
Can you
it up
leave
in
a
the
piece
air.
at the town? Can you leave a piece at the town?
Absolutely, absolutely,
And a piece of the outside wood or whatever that is?
absolutely. And here is that sample again. I know you can't really see it, but like before, I'd meet anyone anytime.
It looks so much better than the previous version.
Oh, yeah.
Big improvement.
Huge improvement.
We thank you for all of your efforts because it made a significant difference, much more residential.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions of the applicant before we move?
Is there lighting of the parking lot?
There is parking lot lighting. A photometric plan was presented.
And are the lights on a light standard? I mean, they're not shown in the picture. I just don't know what they look like.
Scott, would you mind putting that up on the screen? Just letting Scott Freeman put that on the screen for a moment, the photometric plan. Scott, at least play some hold music while we're working on that.
Yeah, one of the consultants provided that. I don't have it at my fingertips. I'm looking for it.
But a photometric plan was presented. They're actually slightly to the left of that rendering, just outside of the view.
Doug, you reviewed that, correct? The photometric?
I don't have it right in front of me, but I do know there was a photometric there. I do recall that it was 0-foot candles at the perimeter, which is what we require.
Yeah, it's okay. I was just kind of wondering where the poles were in the scheme of things there.
Sorry, from that view of the rendering, the first pole is just slightly to the left of that view. And there's another set. Each of them are 4 heads.
Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful rendering. I like it.
Thank you.
A lot better. I like that better.
Thank you.
I think it looks great.
If I could
In terms of
check, I could
street
see where the
signage?
lights are. I could
No,
show
that
where
is
they
not
are.
being presented in the site plan. That came out of the last submission. Here we go.
So we have a one light pole here with 4 fixtures in the center of this parking bay. another pole here with 4 fixtures on it. And then we have 1 light pole, 1 fixture with 1 light head to illuminate the entry drive. And then we have, I believe Madonna helped me out. I believe there's some low-level wall pack lightings on the building, and all of the photometrics. There's no light washing out into the street or beyond the property line. So it's really a low-level type lighting plan, residential in character. Just enough to get people that are parking lights along the building. They can go from an illuminated lot and then walk through the cars along the sidewalk into the entrances.
In terms of street signage to get into your driveway, where's that located?
There isn't any signage being proposed because of the zoning. We'll come back for building signage at another time.
We had a sign here, but we decided to remove it until we've put something together a little more comprehensive based on the time restraints of the project.
But you're gonna have a sign on the building.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll come back for that.
Yeah, we're not gonna have it over here. It'll be on the building.
Right.
And that sign location, if you're looking at the building square, the far right corner, a little further over to the right, Scott, right on that corner is where roughly that signage would go.
Well, this might seem like a crazy question, but I live right here, and if I'm driving North Burdick, how do I know that's where I have to drive in?
That's going to be a question for the ZBA. So we can't grant a sign that's not allowed. But clearly there must be some kind of at least directional signage that may be necessary, and the ZBA will decide.
Okay, I'm just, like I said, I live right here and I travel that road every day.
To your point, it is something that we initially planned to have, but seeing the language in the zone for this current zone, at the moment, we decided we'll come back with building signage.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. And for the record, the Zoning Board of Appeals entered a decision granting a variance for front yard parking. And that decision was made on August the 5th. I have a written, the variance hearing was held on July 30th. The decision was written on August 5th. So that has been approved. Folks, do you have something else you need to discuss, or do we entertain a motion? Does anyone else have a question of the applicant?
So I believe that.
Hold on one moment. Oh, we just had are you accepting additional comments at this time from the public?
We closed the public
hearing. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
All right, at this time, I would entertain a motion relative to site plan.
I'd make a motion to approve the site plan.
Excuse me, Doug, wasn't there, the SWIP still needs to be approved, and that would be a condition?
Yes, yes.
Okay, conditioned on engineering review.
Exactly. All right, we've got a motion made to approve the site plan conditioned on engineering review relative to SWIP. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Arnie seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Site plan is approved, subject to engineering approval of the SWIP issue. Good luck on the project.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your
Thank you.
patience. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Okay, nice job.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
The next item on the agenda Number 8 is the application by Woodland Hills for a subdivision known as the Hogue Lane Development. This is a site plan issue with 21 lot subdivision at 5290 to 5320 Hogue Lane, Fayetteville. This all pertains to tax map number 104-1-39.2. It had been scheduled this evening for secret determination. Is there someone here on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom Douglas is here along with the team representing Hogue Lane Development LLC, or Properties LLC, I'm sorry.
Can you identify anyone else who's there who might speak this evening?
Well, we have Rudy Bona, RZ Engineering, Joe Muller, who works with J.K. Tobin, and Vaughn Lang, who is serving as co-counsel, and Scott Freeman with KFA Architects, Landscape Architects. They're all here tonight. It's our understanding that we're going to go through seeker, hopefully with a favorable resolution tonight, and also to respond to the 393 questions that were posed to us.
We've answered that.
We've answered that. We responded to that with a 16-page letter. So that's been submitted to the board. That was submitted today, is my understanding.
We did receive a letter today at the board. We've also received, if I understand correctly, 31 new amended maps and an amended SWIP, which was limited, if I believe, to 3 pages. Is that correct?
Yes, that's substantially correct. It's also our understanding, Mr. Chairman, that in the past year, the actual drawings, even though the page is now number some 31, there's been relatively little change to the actual design of this subdivision. Most of it has been just simply responses to engineering questions that have been posed to us over the past 2 years.
Okay. And to be very candid, due to the delayed submission today, some of us, including myself, have not had an opportunity to review any of the changes, whether they be minor or otherwise. But I'm presuming we shall proceed forward then, correct, with the seeker determination.
Yes, I think you'll find the changes very minor and our responses to those very concise and clear.
I think at this point, the seeker determination will have to be, at this point, based upon what we've saw before today, because really no one has seen it. I don't think it even got to all the board members yet.
Yes, Ms. Huffman, Ms. Von Lang.
Can I interrupt for a moment? All right. With regard to that last letter, I want to just set forth to the board that there were 393 total comments. All right. 106 of those comments contain suppositions that were alternate facts not in existence. 139 of those comments were repeated comments. 42 of those comments were already provided, and 69 had previously been stated as agreed or okay. So just with regard to volume itself, I just wanted to point out to the board that you can continue a myriad of questions over and over, 393, but to bring it into perspective, you can see what was pertinent to this matter. And I just wanted to bring those numbers to the board. It's not a question of weight. It's a question of pertinent facts. Thank you.
If I could ask, before he goes away, if I could ask you a question.
Yes, please.
What does alternative facts mean?
Okay, alternative facts are based upon assumptions that are not within the actual plans itself. And let me give you an idea as to what a listing of alternative facts. If I do have this opportunity, I can tell you. Like the alternative facts, I'll start out with the Muirfield Basin comments, okay? I let it be known that water does not flow uphill. If there's anyone on the board that believes that water flows uphill, then please, I'd like to hear those comments. But there was a comment that there's an impact with regard to the Muirfield Basin. And in order to do so, the water would have to go down Hogue, back vertically up Hogue, down Hogue again, and up to Muirfield. So you base the conclusion that it's going to have an impact on Muirfield Basin, but water does not flow uphill. Alternative facts, there's a comment with regard to cost topography. The world does not know about the cost topography maps of the town of Manlius at that location. I have submitted a FOIL request to the town. There's a basis that based upon cost topography, this is a problem, but there is no cost topography at that location. The movement of dirt is really an issue.
Wait a minute, you don't have to go on. I just wanted to understand.
One more to exhibit what the degree of misinformation has been espoused by people, all right? The movement of dirt. We have set forth in all of the plans that the movement of dirt, I've heard, you're moving over 100,000 cubic yards of dirt. Well, let me tell you, we're not. All the plans over and over and over have said there's not a movement. We balance it out. There's 39,000 cubic yards of dirt that is moved from one area to another, not off-site. There's 14,000 cubic yards of materials, spoils that are taken as a result of the sewers and utilities put in that is distributed on site. 39 and 14 adds up to 53. Now, I'll put it this way. You put that 53 in front of your right hand. Now move it to the left hand and you don't get 106. You still have 53, okay? And I can go on.
Okay. That's enough. I just wanted to know, I wanted to get a definition of alternative. That's what you said 2 minutes ago. I got it. I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's get back. Let's do secret.
Okay.
Jamie, can you lead us through?
I can. This is a full environmental assessment of form. So we're doing the full EAF part 2. Number 1 question, impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
The proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet.
No.
No.
No, I don't believe so.
The proposed action may involve construction on slopes 15% or greater.
Yeah. Moderate to large. Yep.
And the proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface.
Yes.
Yes. Moderate to large.
No. No, we believe the answer to that is no. There is no bedrock. There is no evidence. There is no evidence on all of our geological surveys that there is any bedrock in this area.
Mr. Chairman, we employed Chris Kinney. He's a licensed geotech engineer. He's been out to the site over the course of 3 years, maybe a half dozen times now. Joe Muller, who happens to be sitting in the room with us with J.K. Tobin, he alone personally has probably done 10 or 15 borings down to the depths of, now I think we're up to 14, 16 feet. I've been there when all these have occurred, and I can tell you personally, we've not hit any rock in one single boring over the course of 3 years. There is no bedrock. There is no karst topography. And this is coming from a certified licensed geotech engineer, not Tom Douglas. And there is no water table on this property. So to say there's bedrock is just factually inaccurate. Where are you getting those facts?
I got the fact right out of Chris Kenny's geotech survey.
Yeah, it was in his survey that several of his pits hit rock.
No bedrock.
No bedrock.
No bedrock.
Cobbles,
yes.
not bedrock.
Cobbles, but not bedrock.
Rippable stone, rippable.
Mr. Chairman, is this a public hearing?
No, it's really not.
Okay, all right.
I guess at this point in time, after this has been pending for so long, I really want to move forward with this. But to respond to them, their own geotech expert used the word bedrock, that he hit bedrock. But from this point on, I'd like the board to respond to these questions. This is not an open forum while we're going through this.
Okay.
Jamie?
So the answer to the proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. I had not finished that full sentence the last time.
Yes.
Yes.
And is that a moderate or is it a small impact?
Moderate to
Moderate to large. The proposed action may involve excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material.
Moderate.
Yeah, they admitted it.
Okay, greater than 1,000 tons, moderate to large impact or small impact?
No, moderate to large.
Moderate to large.
The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases.
Definitely, moderate to large.
And what is the construction that's going to continue for more than a year or in multiple phases? We can have a discussion of that.
I looked at the plans and they have a hammerhead on the roadway and a temporary catch basin or not catch basin, but a detention basin that they're going to build. I don't believe they're going to do that in a 1 year period. They're going to continue on in several phases to get this done.
And Doug, do you agree with that? That it's going to be more than a year or multiple phases?
It would appear to be so. They have some schedules on there where they have indicated that they think they can do it in less than a year, but they've also have a caveat that that's dependent upon weather related activities. But that still doesn't include the house building that would carry on years after that.
The question then goes on to, so now that we think it may go more than a year, would it be a small impact or a moderate to large impact?
Moderate to large.
Moderate to large.
Yeah.
Next question. The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides.
Yes.
Moderate to large.
Yes.
Okay, the increased erosion is from what? Physical.
It would be from the construction activities and the things that, the seeker workbook says to look at would be, any impacts to the on-site wetland, the slopes that you addressed previously at 15%, and a request that the applicant has in for a 5-acre disturbance.
The proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion area.
No.
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 With respect to other impacts on land, our engineer had some comments in that respect regarding storm water retention design impact, the cut and fill processes having an impact, and particularly regarding local underlying geophysical topography and the near field basin. Do you want to elaborate on that at all, Doug?
No, I think you've said it all on that one.
So those factors that I just set forth as other impacts, are they moderate or small?
Moderate to large.
Moderate to large.
Next question 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site, such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves.
No.
No.
Impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, such as rivers, streams, ponds, lakes.
No.
No.
Impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer.
Yes.
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 And the answer would be yes, based upon what in particular? And we'll go through these questions. The proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demand on supplies from existing water supply wells.
No.
No.
Water demand from the proposed action may exceed safe and sustainable withdrawal capacity rate of the local supply or aquifer.
No.
No.
The proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer services.
No.
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 Proposed action may include or require wastewater discharged to groundwater.
No.
No.
Proposed action may result in the construction of water supply wells in locations where groundwater is or is suspected to be contaminated.
No.
No.
The proposed action may require the bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over groundwater or an aquifer.
No.
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 The proposed action may involve the commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of potable drinking water or irrigation sources.
No.
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 So we answered yes, but we answered all of those no. Are there other impacts then on groundwater that would be an impact of concern?
Yes, the catchment area drains to a groundwater discharge for that whole area of the community. So it's a unique direct infiltration into the limestone substrate.
That would create possible groundwater issues?
Yes, and the potential of that having impact to not accept any more groundwater.
So I would ask the board, does that sound like it would be a small impact or a moderate to large impact?
Moderate to large.
Moderate to large.
Let's talk about the impact on flooding. Number 5, the proposed action may result in development of lands subject to flooding.
No.
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 Evidence of that. Impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source.
No.
No.
On plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna.
Yes.
Yes.
It's already, yes.
So let's go through the questions and talk about how that would impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site.
No.
Proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government.
No.
Isn't that also the bat area? I think that also involves the bats.
I think those bats are gone now that the trees are down.
That's why they took the trees down.
Post action, so that's going to be no impact currently because there's nothing there currently
Right.
on the bat. The proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site.
No.
No.
The
No.
proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any species of special concern and conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government.
No.
The proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered national natural landmark to support the biological community it was established to protect.
No.
The proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community.
No.
The proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site.
No.
No.
The proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or other regionally or locally important habitat.
No.
The proposed action, commercial, industrial, or recreational projects only, involves use of herbicides or pesticides.
No.
No.
So although that was answered yes, all of the subparts were answered no. Number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources.
No.
No.
Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource.
No.
Number 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource.
No.
No.
Impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan.
No.
No.
Number 12, impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area.
No.
No.
Impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems.
No.
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 Impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy.
No.
Anyone? Is that no?
No.
I think it's a no.
Impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's go through those questions. The proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation.
Yes.
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 What-
Moderate
in
to
what
large.
respect?
Moderate to large.
In what respect? What are the noise levels? What is the noise of concern?
The applicant noted in part 1 that there would be noise levels above and beyond the regulations during construction activities.
To large impact? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties.
No.
Put those regulations there on the noise. Is there any regulation stating that anywhere in the town? What regulations are we talking about? Doug?
Well, we'll continue. Let's continue with that noise. Any noise ordinance I think we're talking about. The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties. We said no. The proposed action may result in lighting creating a sky globe brighter than existing area conditions.
No.
No.
I think in this area of other impacts, that the question is, what is there going to be exceeding noise levels, ambient noise, or other violation of the town ordinance. I believe that the applicant did say during construction, there will be temporary intervals of noise exceeding ambient noise levels relating to typical construction noises / activity. And I think a concern of this board is whether the noise is in violation of the sound ordinance of the noise ordinance of the town. So that would be under other. Is that a small impact or a moderate to large impact?
I think if the applicant said moderate, we should say moderate.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
I do not believe they use the word moderate. I believe their words were during construction, there will be temporary intervals of noise exceeding ambient noise levels relating to typical construction noises / activity. I believe that's a quote. And so they did not use that word.
And
So
this is probably a multi-year process. So yeah, if I lived there.
Given the amount of work that has to be done there, I don't know how it couldn't be moderate or better, you know?
Yep.
Just over the period of time it has to be done and the number of trucks and equipment that has to go in there.
Okay.
And that's the concern, the volume of the earth. It's going to be significant.
I
The
agree.
noise level.
Following the town
Just back that equipment up and listen to it.
Rich, we're following the town code.
Proposed
work hours.
action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. Impact on human health. Number 16.
No.
The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. Now, this is a question whether, you know, we do have a cluster development plan that is in the code. There are no other land use plans that I can think of that would be involved. So the question is the proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans? Yes or no?
I think it's not consistent.
I agree. That's where the problem is. We would think that you would have some open space, forever wild, whatever, in a cluster, and everything's knocked down.
So let's go.
The purpose, Jamie, if I can just be heard, the purpose of our cluster development is to keep the aesthetic value and have as little impact on the environment as possible. And this project so far, it's heading exactly in the opposite direction. It's not consistent with what our code is intended.
Go through the questions of number 17 then, if that is a yes answer. The proposed actions land use components may be different from, or, sorry, my light, I've been sitting here too long, light went out.
Joe, if I could just jump in real quickly.
Go ahead, Rich.
The cluster development helps both the town and the developer.
Correct.
Because if the roads are shorter, then you have shorter runs for water, sewer, electric, all that stuff. So it helps control the cost for the developer, and it also keeps some land, I'll call it raw, undeveloped, so it's a benefit to both.
And it should be, yes.
That's the purpose of it, yeah.
So answering the questions of number 17, the proposed actions land use components may be different from or in sharp contrast to current surrounding land use patterns.
No, I don't think so.
The proposed action will cause the permanent population of the city, town, or village in which the project is located to grow by more than 5%.
No.
The proposed action is inconsistent with local land use plans or zoning regulations.
No, not really.
I think it is.
I think it is too.
Moderate.
If it's going to be a cluster, then I think it is.
But but Rich, just having whether it's cluster or whether it's conventional, it's still allowed under
the zoning and.
But Fred, the way I look at it is we have no obligation to give a developer a cluster development. It's mutual benefit to both. And when you look at what's happened here and all the trees were knocked down, it is no longer consistent with the regulations.
I have to think about that because the trees were knocked down. The trees were knocked down primarily to rob the Indiana bat of habitat.
I understand that, but it would have been nice if 20%, 30% or whatever of the site were left untouched.
A third of it is untouched. 39 acres are untouched.
No, 10 acres.
10 acres. 10 acres.
10 of the 39. One-third was
One
not.
third of the site is green. If I could share screen, I could show you on L400. It shows a pretty vast forever wild area.
Let's go on to the next question.
Mr. Chair, that's your prerogative right now.
Yes, I'd want to proceed forward.
Okay. So the right now we have whether it's inconsistent with local land use plans and zoning regulations. Why don't we come back to that question? I'm not sure we have an agreement on it. The proposed action is inconsistent with any county plans or other regional land use plans.
No.
No.
It's right. It is consistent. The proposed action may cause a change in the density of development that is not supported by existing infrastructure or is distant from existing infrastructure.
No.
The proposed action is located in an area characterized by low density development that will require new or expanded public infrastructure.
No.
The proposed action may induce secondary development impacts, for example, residential or commercial development not included in the proposed action.
No.
No.
So if we go, there is a space here for other impacts with adopted use plans. If I might propose that as an other, if we talk about the section 127 of the Manlius law that sets forth the cluster criterion, it's 278 of the town law. And there's been discussion that it shows inconsistency with the plan because it doesn't preserve natural and scenic qualities of open lands, which is what actually the code specifically says. So it could be an explanation of C if we put it down here at H, other. Anyone?
Well, I have been told recently that 20% or whatever, some percentage of this parcel has not been touched. And unfortunately, I haven't been involved with this as long as the other board members have. But I'd like to know how much is on lot 21 as opposed to the 20 lots of the subdivision.
Could we share screen for a moment?
So when somebody says 20%, where is this 20%?
Could we share the screen and show you?
Richard, you really want to see the screen?
Joe, it's up to you. You've been through it a lot more than I have.
And I've been out to the site several times, and I'm sorry, but I'm overwhelmed with the number of trees down.
See, and I guess in my mind, Joe, if lot 21 has been preserved, if I can use that term, but the balance of the site has not been, well, then the percentage means nothing to me because one lot is preserved and the rest of the property is not preserved. But I don't know that. I'm not familiar with it.
Could we have 1 minute? Share the screen for 1 minute.
Yes, you may have the screen for 1 minute.
Okay, this is lot 21 right here. The green space we're preserving goes along the property line here and the back area here. Going along the east, it's pretty substantial. We did not include all of the lot area. We were pretty conservative. As you look to the west, we've preserved the 2 Army Corps intermittent streams. We've preserved this ridge, and the trees that were cleared by Mr. Douglas and his crew, I was out there, those trees were pretty much cleared within the white area. So So if you run through the numbers, the site in its entirety is 30 acres, and we've preserved 10 of it. So we're in a, you know, 1/3 preservation. So we feel we're in the character of a preservation neighborhood, which will be managed by an HOA.
Rich, if I can add something to this, because you haven't been privy to the last several years of hearings, but during the process of developing this, we've acquiesced to the neighbors' concerns. And one of the biggest concerns the neighbors ask is if we could create a buffer. That's how the cluster plan developed. It was at the request of the neighbors to provide a buffer along Cahill, along Hogue, and to the western end of the property where the retention basin is, where we have the only bordering neighbors on Hogue. So that's how that evolved. That was really a give and take with the surrounding neighbors.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a better understanding.
If I may, can I just, one quick concern that was brought up in error. And I'm going to read, it's on page 7 of our response, in response to Chris Kinney, the licensed geotech engineer.
I don't know who's speaking, and if it came in today, we shouldn't be talking about it.
In the report.
No, but you brought it up, and I'm just going to address it. His last comment in question 32, our response letter, no bedrock was found during any on-site testing. That came from a geotech engineer. So to say that there was bedrock, and that was stated from our geotech engineer, is just falsely inaccurate. It's right there in the report that you all have today.
Well, we haven't read it, so I can't comment.
It's in the report, for the record. I'm just making a note.
The explanation was.
All right, thank you, sir.
But it's been in the report for some time. The response letter went out today, but the report you've had for some time. That hasn't changed, if I may add.
If I can just direct this conversation with respect to the cluster development and the wording in there to preserve natural and scenic qualities of open lands. And there is some question about it. We can talk about what we can do to get more information about that if you want to mark it right now as a moderate to large impact. That's.
Yeah, I think that's accurate from what I understand.
Anyone else want to comment on that?
Jamie, I'm not hearing you.
Oh,
can't hear you, Jamie.
Can we take the plan off? Can we get the plan off the screen, please?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So we're kind of stuck on this 17H question, and whether it's going to comply with cluster preserving natural and scenic qualities, and clustering has to also show a benefit to the town. Do we have a question on that we would want more information on?
Are you asking if we have a question on it?
I'm asking that because we're still at that question, whether it's a moderate or large impact or no or small impact. With respect
to some of the things in the seeker workbook that they say that you should take into consideration, if you're pondering this, are significant portions of the site to be removed through grading, filling, or removal of prominent features.
Doug, when they do the balancing of the site and they start moving the dirt on the site from one place to another, these areas of no build, forever wild, are they involved in this process?
The forever wild areas are not involved in the process.
Okay. So the pond and south, or whatever direction that is, and on those upper lots, wherever there's a no build, they're not touching.
That's not true. I mean, where the pond is, right? That drawing that Scott just showed you, obviously the pond area has to be cleared and worked on, right?
And he just mentioned some drainage ways that are Army Corps drainage ways. Are they doing anything with those?
No. No, we have a buffer. We're not touching those. We're going to lay out construction fence with EPS before we start construction, so we will not be touching those.
I'll ask Doug that question.
That's correct, what Scott said.
Okay.
Okay, Jamie.
So the question, I'm still not, want to make sure I have a question. A proper answer to this number 17, where we are kind of 17H. If there's other impacts that might be moderate or large involving the preserving of natural and scenic qualities of open lands and whether there's a benefit to the town. Under section 127, the town code 278 of the town law.
I always say I'm just one vote, but when you're negotiating with somebody to do a cluster development and they go in and clear where they want to clear prior to getting approval, in my mind, that's kind of bad faith. Now,
Rich, you weren't part of the process then, but we got approval before we took any trees down, sir.
you know, I want to see the letter. You got a letter that says that you got approval?
We'll review it in a minute, but we got permission. We didn't go out there and cut those trees down without anyone having knowledge of it. We were given permission as long as we cut within the right boundaries and left the green space as forever wild or conservation area.
And we actually left some perimeter trees in the
I don't want to get into an argument, but
well, you confer with the members of the board that were there during the hearings when you weren't.
Mr. Douglas, I was present at every hearing, and I never heard anybody give permission to do that. I never heard it requested. The first I heard of it was when a neighbor called to tell me all the trees are coming down.
Your codes officer was out there with us when we did it, and he was aware of what was going on.
Yeah, he visited the site when we started.
that doesn't equate to approval.
Okay, so I just want to, I want to move on from that, but I do want to say that the town of Manlius code does not require any permits for the removal of trees that does not disturb the ground. So there's no permission required and there's no permit required for that to happen.
And
so what?
I don't disagree.
So,
as a courtesy to the town and the neighbors, we didn't disturb any of the ground. We didn't bring any machinery in to take those trees down. They were all hand cut.
So,
In fact, all the stumps are still there. We've not cleared anything.
There's no clearing of the land, no stump removal, no grubbing. It's all there.
So so in fact, that's not allowed. We have no reason to believe that there was any ground disturbance. It's the trees that came down. No permit or permission is required, and none was given.
At our expense, the surveyor staked the limits so we would not go beyond and into our preservation areas. At our expense, we hired a surveyor. We didn't just go out there and change on trees.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you. I'm new to the planning board too, but I understood that before you get a cluster development, you first have to submit a plan for a normal development. So do we have the plan for the normal development? And then
we did, yes,
plan?
sir.
Okay,
We
so
did.
we saw the plan and then they showed us the cluster. But the problem was they cleared the trees where they knew the cluster was going to be before they had the approval to do it?
Yes.
Okay. In other words, you don't need approval to take the trees down.
They didn't need approval, but they did it anyway.
But you need an approval to have a cluster development. You didn't have that yet, is that correct?
It has not happened yet. We're still in the process of approving the cluster subdivision.
Okay.
This is part of the process.
Joe, just for the record, I've been here through this entire process, and I agree with you. I was up there when the trees were there, and then I was up there when the trees weren't. And I don't recall us getting any indication that there was going to be any tree cutting for any reason. So
that's my feeling. And and forgive me, but my position on this is that they significantly are doing something contrary to what our picture of cluster development is. When you do that and the massive earth movement that's going to be coming in the future, it's contrary to cluster development, period.
I agree.
I would,
I agree.
if this question is in fact answered, yes, moderate or large impact may occur, which I think that's what you're saying.
I think the members are saying that, yes.
I think that's the case.
Now the issue becomes, can it be mitigated, right? They're entitled to show how it's mitigated, and that may be where we're heading with this, is a mitigation issue.
Jamie, if I could just say one more thing, because I was just told that they did not cut down any of the trees in the no-build Forever Wild area. Has anybody seen a legal description for what that area is? Have we been provided that so that we can go out there on the ground and see where the no-build area is?
Proposed no-build area has not yet been approved by this board, but there have been proposed plans on the plans that we have reviewed.
Okay, so we don't know where it is.
I believe
yet.
it is on there.
Okay.
The no-build area as they propose it is on the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, Rich, the site plan that they just put on the board a while ago that we just got through looking at has the area that's the Forever Wild set aside land. The one thing that really is my question is, there's going to be a lot of disturbance around that big retention basin that's in that area that was shown in green on the map.
Right.
And that's you asked the question about the percentage, and I don't, that there's a part of that that's not going to be the natural hillside that it was before that all the construction happens.
I agree, Fred. And I'm also thinking of like lot, I don't know what it is, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the other side of the development that has the no build line on it. But if you don't have a legal description and somebody buys lot 4, how do they know where the no build area is?
That's all to be determined.
Okay.
That's
all right.
to be determined.
Well, I would assume that will be surveyed and shown.
Yep. Okay.
All right, Jamie, can we move on to
Jamie.
18?
Yes. Okay. So
10 acres outside of that retention basin, if I could add that. That retention basin is not factored into the 10 acres of non-disturbed area. So don't calculate that as part of the 10 acres that's Forever Wild. It's outside of that retention basin.
How much, Tom, how much will be disturbed? How much will be disturbed in building the retention basin there?
Whatever the grade plan is, I don't know offhand.
I can't give you that right off the top of my head, but.
Okay, well, that's all right. I understand that it's,
I'm guessing it real quick here. He's going to calculate it, if you will.
that retention basin is kind of a big deal.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
it
is.
240.
Okay, Jamie, I'm sorry. I apologize.
50, 120 by 240.
Approximately 120 by on the retention basin.
About a third of the size of the Swan Pond.
About a third of it, yeah.
It's one of the smaller retention basins in all the subdivision the town's already approved in Manlius, including the Swan Pond. I can go on and on. We have that in part of our drawings.
It's
illustrated.
1/3 the size of the Manlius Swan Pond.
The old Swan Pond?
Yeah.
The lower
Yes,
one.
the lower one.
It's 2/3 of an acre.
So let's go on then to number 18, consistency with community character.
Well, Jamie, how are we answering that question?
I thought that you were answering it moderate to large impact, but I believe that, is that
Okay.
not correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's correct, yes.
Yep.
All right, and it's only as to H. Okay, so Consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. And the,
No. That's a tough one.
Green space.
We've had a lot of developments, but this is one of the more significant digs.
And there's no cluster up there, is there? Anywhere around that area?
No, it's all pretty big lots.
Yeah.
They're conventional all around us up there.
Small lot.
So I think this is yes.
The largest is Dolly Farms, adjacent to our property. Those are relatively small lots. There's over 100 homes in there.
But are they a cluster?
There wasn't such a thing at that time.
Wasn't that time.
Okay. So we'll answer that yes. Let's go down and answer these questions then. The proposed action may replace or eliminate existing facilities, structures, or areas of historic importance to the community.
No.
The proposed action may create a demand for additional community services, for example, schools, police, and fire.
No.
Not significant, no.
Minor, no.
The proposed action may displace affordable or low-income housing in an area where there's a shortage of such housing.
No.
No.
The proposed action may interfere with the use or enjoyment of officially recognized or designated public resources.
No.
Action is inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and
No,
character.
it's the same.
No.
The proposed action is inconsistent with the character of the existing natural landscape.
Yeah,
That is a yes. If they're moving that much dirt, yes.
that's a big yes.
So
Agree.
Agree.
there's a G, the other impacts in this area also may have to do with the cluster development questions we discussed earlier.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
moderate or
Moderate
Yeah.
to large.
Yeah.
Yes.
so there were several moderate or large impacts may occur, not a lot, but several that are noted. Joe, I guess I asked the board's pleasure on this. There were several things that were discussed and that this board received a proposed resolution in advance. And I just ask everyone if they did see that, read it, and have the chance to comment on it.
So,
Yes, right.
Jamie, can you hear me?
Is that you,
Frank?
Mike?
Can you hear?
Yes.
So, Jamie, it's Frank Mento speaking.
Yes.
So I did have a chance to peruse the resolution, take a look at it. As we go through the seeker process and we make a determination as a body that the impacts, the potential environmental impacts could be of major category or could be significant. The question then becomes, are those impacts able to be sufficiently mitigated through the design and construction process?
Right.
And if they are, they should be. And if they can't, then it takes another pathway. So I would ask us to think about, as we spent considerable time going through this, are those impacts as noted, and I think there's 5 or 6 of them of significance right now, are those impacts in some way mitigatable by the development team and by our technical team, namely the town's technical team, to get to a point where they are not causing the impact as initially proposed? So I asked that question really to Doug and to the development team, but primarily to Doug. The impacts that were identified, again, as being significant or major in character, in your opinion, can they be mitigated by some finding that we could put into a document and hold the development team to that to make sure that the impact falls within the category then of being mitigatable? That's the, in my opinion, the $1 million question.
I think so.
Yeah, I would say yes, Frank.
Okay.
I would agree. I would definitely.
So if that is in fact the case, if you remember, going back a year and a half ago, I requested that the development team and the technical team sit down and work through this stuff. I now say the same thing. In essence, if we're down to 5 or 6 issues that could cause a significant or major environmental impact, can we get together as a development team and as a technical team representing the town, take a look at those, and not just arbitrarily, but take a look at those impacts and say to ourselves through the design process, can those impacts be mitigated? If they can, and it's offered up as such in a formal document, plan, or discussion, then we can arrive at a negative declaration under seeker. If they can't, for whatever reason, then we're forced to go to a positive declaration under seeker, as I understand it. Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong.
That is one method of approaching it.
And
there are other methods, but that's one.
The positive declaration under seeker would then trigger a draft environmental impact statement and another series of processes. So all I'm saying with respect to the amount of time, resources, and effort that everybody's put into this, the question at hand is, can those impacts be mitigatable? And so I would ask Doug and the development team, once again.
Frank, this is Joe Muller. I've done a lot of subdivisions throughout central New York and Onondaga County, and the board. These are all questions that all come up to, questions that do come up on various projects that we've done throughout the county and far reaches, I guess. So yes, they are mitigatable, some of them do fall into the town code as far as the noise ordinance. I mean, obviously there's a noise ordinance in the town of DeWitt, town of Clay, wherever we work, that you're not prohibited to work on Saturdays afternoon, no Sundays, you work normal business hours during the week. So those are all things that we've worked through. I'm doing a project right in Mallard's Landing right now as we speak. Finishing the last phase of Mallard's Landing over on Muscovy and Decoy Run. So these are things that all can be worked out. I have done blasting in the town of Manlius, only up until 3 years ago when we did a project for Dan Bargavas. So those are all things that are means and methods on how you construct a project. But it's not a, the length of the project to do a typical subdivision. I'm doing one down at Colgate University, same little subdivision, 21 lots, tough site, has a lot of fill. I've hauled 40,000 yards out of a site just to build a project. Granted, that's in the country. It's not in the town of Manlius, but I think a lot of these things could be mitigated. It depends on how long the project, but a typical subdivision is a 3.5 month project, depending on when you can get water and stuff like that, because there's some things that we don't control with aqua and so on and so forth. So those are things that I think if we all sat down, and obviously this time with the pandemic prohibits a lot of the face-to-face, and you can figure it out on what different means and methods, you know. I'm just talking on behalf of Tobin Construction. That doesn't mean that I'm not necessarily the contractor on the job. It could be somebody else that outbids us or whoever, but it's you know, means and methods is all up to the contractor, and you have contract documents to follow. So I guess that's all I really have to say.
Thank you.
So if I have spent some time learning how to be an engineer the last few years, and especially on this project, but I think that that Frank and I think this board had just went through this document, right? And there are a few items. I think that part of the issue is that not all of the specifics have been forthcoming. And what we're trying to do, and what the chairperson decided last week, is that we have to get to an endpoint on this seeker, which I think we can. Now the question is, how do we get there, and what's the method to get there? So the resolution that had been worked on with the consultants and legal, for example, okay, there are seven items, three or four of which are larger and a couple of smaller ones. So if we take the first one by way of example, I don't want to be here all night either, guys, but you know, we're in it. So here we go. So the first item is described as follows. The applicant has provided letter reports made by Kenny Geotechnical Engineering Services dated May 18, 2020 and May 27, 2020, the Kenny Geotechnical Report, in quotes, which has been reviewed by the town's engineer consultant in conjunction with the other documents part of the July 1, 2020 submission. And the town's engineer consultant has determined that environmental impact of this project on stormwater volume and runoff is significant due to the project being in an environmental sensitive area with the Muirfield Drive drainage basin, and with the large earth moving operation with soils depicted as having high silt content by the applicant. That's in quotes. While same may be mitigable, the town engineer found that, quote, detailed site-specific plans on using of site soils susceptible of losing strength and requiring frost cover protection outlined in the geotechnical report dated 5/18/20 are not addressed in the proposed scope of work by the applicant. That's quotes. And further found that a waiver of New York State stormwater regulations for a 5-acre disturbance variance is not recommended. And then how is that addressed? This is going to be addressed by the applicant providing an analysis of the manner in which a reduction of volume of stormwater runoff on the site beyond that already provided will affect the Muirfield Basin, downstream flooding, the local underlying geophysical topography, and other stormwater impacts, including but not limited to an analysis of pre-development runoff volumes not exceeding post-development volumes, and including site-specific plans requiring frost cover protection, plans for bioretention facilities, rain gardens to support the percolation testing as set forth in the Kenny Geotechnical Report, and analysis of stormwater calculations for the site, which do not include in the calculation the areas that are not disturbed / undeveloped as part of this project. So that's the problem. That's the proposed request.
A 30-second comment, if I might, Ms. Suffin.
That's up to the chair.
Go ahead, Vaughn.
Mr. Lupia, 30 seconds, please.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lupia, we just mentioned the Muirfield Basin. I just earlier this evening said water does not run uphill. How can you mitigate something that does not exist? If we can get past that which does not exist throughout this project, we may find that those 7 issues are easily mitigatable. So if we can we just heard your basin, and in the design, in the plans that we have shown that water would have to run uphill to have an effect upon that. Now, I'm not, I think my 30 seconds are up.
Mr. Lang, are you still there?
Oh, yes, yes, Mr. Lupia, sorry. I'm still here.
Okay.
This is my concern. This petition has been pending for 2 3/4 years.
Agreed.
Soon it will be 3 years. We've had more meetings with the applicant than we've had with anyone else that I've ever encountered. We had several in the town offices, and then we even had them at council's office. And yet we're not moving on this. What is the applicant asking of us? Otherwise, we're at a point where we're going to finish the seeker tonight, and to me, it looks like a positive declaration.
I'm asking that there be a definitive understanding with regard to certain misrepresentations that don't exist. Those misrepresentations are the basis, okay, of question number, in this case, question number 1, okay? In our plans, we have set forth how Muirfield Basin is not impacted, right? The water has to go down Hogue, up Hogue, down Hogue, across and uphill Muirfield. So, but there's no request of the town engineer to explain how water runs uphill. So we have the initial statement, water runs uphill. Now, how are we going to mitigate that? I also want to bring to your attention that the town's water is running unmitigated across these lands, okay? And I'm not going to bring that up at this time, but the town, well, yes, I am. The town has no easement to run those unmitigated waters across our land. They do have the easement to stop at our lands, and they continue to impact our lands. Now, I'm not, that's a totally different issue handled elsewhere. But I want to know when it's going to be resolved that, yes, I now understand what you mean by water running uphill. It's in our design plan. It's for the last 2.5 years, as I've seen, it's been commented that we have an impact on Muirfield. And so step 1 is an understanding of the facts, not the alternative facts. All right, we can do this here. We can do it in an office. We can do it in court. All right, it would be up to you to decide where we want to do it. So we are certainly willing to get together with an open mind, not the basis of it's going to impact Muirfield, so how do we mitigate it? There's got to be proof by the engineer how it impacts Muirfield, how this karst topography that he's invented, okay, works in this area, and therefore let the board hear, not his conclusions, but his understanding as to how he came to those conclusions, and let the board make the decision as to whether our engineer is sensible or your engineer is sensible, right? That's step 1. Step 1 is not taking the conclusions of your engineer and saying, okay, how do we mitigate this? We have gone over and over the facts that alternate facts do not work. I want to know how the board is going to get together and attempt to resolve the differences in engineering.
So we have this number 1. We have what our engineer has told us. He's not working. He's not the only engineer who's working on it. He has a whole team working on it. I understand that these words are, we're looking how it will affect the Muirfield Basin. I'm not going to talk about whether it's upstream or downstream. It just says will affect the Muirfield Basin. This particular number 1 and the request doesn't say anything about karst topography. So we're at a number 1. So the issue is set forth and the potential of what would be required to move this forward. again, it's narrowing the issues. The second issue is the town's engineer consultant has determined that due to the significant impact of stormwater implications created by the project, and the applicant has agreed that the large stormwater holding area / impoundment proposed by the applicant on the site and being approximately 16.5 feet deep, which is named, we have called the stormwater impoundment.
That's an alternative fact. I would set
Be
forth.
designed to the standards set forth by the Department of Environmental Conservation as if same was delineated in the dam, which design to date has not been provided.
Again, that's alternative facts. Okay, that's alternative facts not supported by the plans, and that's what I'm getting at. Okay, it's not supported by the DEC, it's not supported by the plans. We submitted the plans to the DEC. Your engineer called the DEC, and based upon our conversations with Jennifer from the DEC, it appears that those representations made to her are inconsistent with the plans. She confirmed our plans, not the phone call of your engineer. So again,
Mr. Lang, she confirmed that the structure did not require a permit as per New York State DEC requirements. Please refer to our comments that were put together by Stope and Engineering, requiring a design report.
not a dam.
Thank you. Thank
Are
you.
you willing to admit it is not a dam?
No,
Then
not at this time. Not at this time.
listen to what was just said. He will not say it's not a dam, but I presented evidence that says this is not a dam. I presented it from the DEC. I've given the board those 3 outlines of the definition of a dam, and he still says it's not a dam. Now, where do you think we're going?
Okay,
So,
Mr. Lang, Mr. Lang, we've heard you at great detail. We've listened to you.
I appreciate that.
And I'd like to know where we're going as well. And I think we need to resolve this issue, the secret. I think we truly need to move forward with the secret and finish the secret issue.
yeah, the issue, and going back to that, that number 2, is that it's being called a stormwater impoundment. It is not being called a dam, but it needs to go to the standards as if it's delineated as a dam. It needs the design. So the response to that, and that's what that says, the number 2, the analysis of the stormwater impoundment as if designed to the standards set forth by the Department of Environmental Conservation Analysis for design of a dam on the project site and all matters of stormwater control, stability of any berms created by design runoff analysis with downstream impacts in the event of stormwater impoundment failure. Actual detailed design will be required to complete this analysis. So that would be the question that is the question and the proposed analysis that's required. The next matter is.
Jamie,
Yes.
Frank Mento again.
Yes, Frank.
Do we need to go through this exhaustive list of 6 or 7 items? Is that pertinent for this at this point? Because they're on the record, everybody has them. I guess I go back to my question. Can this be resolved between the teams that are working on it from both sides? If they can't, we need to move to another direction.
I think that what I'm trying to do is show what each of these is to see if we can, what we kind of conclusion we would come to. It's, I mean, there's not a lot more, but right now there's been pushback on both number 1 and number 2, and
yeah, I guess that's my point, right? So it doesn't appear like even in the session between Doug and the development team that anything can be resolved.
Well, Mr. Izzo, if I may interrupt, I 100% agree with you. Put me on the record that I'm 100% in agreement. I would love to go through these 6 or 7 issues with the development team, with members of the board, okay, with our team, but have members of the board there so that they can understand and perhaps see what we're talking about when we set forth that the facts upon which the conclusions are based are in error. When you talk about the extreme impacts, you're looking at the comments of the engineer, which are based not upon what was submitted. So to number 2, we agree. It is, the engineer still says he cannot agree that it's not a dam, but it is not a dam, but
I don't believe that the engineer said that.
No, yes,
that was someone else.
No, I believe it was the engineer, but the engineer says he cannot agree that this is not a dam. But then, Jamie, you said, but it's built to the specs of a dam. That we agree to. The plans are to the specs of a dam, but the definition of dam is not, this is not a dam. So you build to the specs of a dam, but this is not defined as a dam. So I think we're through number 2 if we understand that that we do build and we intend to build, and the plan set forth to build to the specs of a dam, which has already been approved by the DEC. So I believe that we can believe that a meeting, we don't have to go through 7 steps. A meeting that's set up tonight, okay, where members of the board can be present so they can hear both sides, not one. They can hear both sides of facts, our facts supported by the evidence and the alternative facts perhaps unsupported.
I gotta interrupt. I gotta jump in, Joe. I need to jump in. I have worked with Doug for probably 15 years, and I'm insulted by the way that they are describing his decisions, his analysis. This is just wrong. It is absolutely wrong to say that they have the facts and Doug is wrong. That analysis is absolutely wrong.
It pains me to attack a person like this, but after 3 years, when someone says, I cannot say it is not a dam, when 3 years go by and you're talking about 100,000 cubic yards of dirt being moved, when there's nothing to indicate that, when 3 years go by and I hear, well, you're going to be moving dirt for a year and a half when we have a schedule that sets forth 3 months, okay? But we hear all of these alternative facts. So it pains me to attack, but I must attack because it's an opinion not supported by anything. It's an opinion, and I can't say why that opinion exists. I can only presume, but I don't wish to presume.
Can I just say one thing? I'm obviously Doug and I are the ones that are at odds here, Rich. And I think Doug has said in the past, and maybe not in front of you, the board, but at least in front of myself and the design team when we were on phone calls and things. And Joe Muller just put it in my ear, and I thought it was a great point. On a lot of this stuff, we agreed to disagree. Doug would agree with that because we said it to me before. We do agree to disagree. You know, we've gone back and forth. We spent 4 months going back and forth with the DEC to find out that what information.
We can't hear you. Something happened. I can't hear a word you're saying.
Where did I cut you off? Where did I cut off? Am I muted?
Right, folks, the bottom line here, the bottom line is we're on the verge of making a determination relative to SECRA. This has been pending for 2 3/4 years. We've sat down, we've discussed, we tried to work things out. It hasn't come about. And I think it's time we make a decision and that we go forward and move this thing forward one way or the other. So we've heard on SECRA. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the proposed resolution?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to do an individual roll call as to whether people support the resolution or not.
That's fine. I support the resolution.
So, go ahead.
Jamie, you got something different? Am I allowed to go forward with roll call?
I think that it would be prudent
To make a motion?
to me to summarize the resolution for the record briefly. Okay, so the resolution is for a determination of environmental significance. There are several paragraphs that this board, if they accept this resolution and has seen in advance, relating to some of the background. Of importance is that that the plans that were utilized in this resolution were submitted between mid-June and July 1 as basically the fully revised set of plans and documents. There were no other documents that were used in this review. And that our town engineer did provide a 25-page response letter with attachments, many of which were taken from the submitted project documents and with attachments. And that this evening, we went through the seeker FEAF Part 2, and each of the moderate to large impacts are consistent with what we had found in the tonight are in this resolution, except that tonight number 1E was identified after discussion including B, C, D, F, and H of Part 1. Everything else is is in this resolution. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 findings and determinations with respect to the seeker. Number 1, I already read. Number 2, I already read. Number 3 has to do with the extent of cuts and fills and movement of earth, and has some quotes from the Kenny Geological Report. Number 4 has to do with earth movement, cut fill, stormwater retention work that may have negative environmental impacts if not managed effectively. The 5th one, and again, reference to the Kenny Geological. Number 5, there are concerns about the cluster development and whether this preserves the natural and scenic qualities of open lands, and whether the significant land clearing that had been done would negatively affect the character or quality of the existing neighborhood. There is also a comment about negative environmental consequences to placement of utilities and homes on soils that may not be properly compacted, and reference to standard industry standards. Number 7, there's discussion about any neighborhood and any noise control. We did not determine there was any dust issue, that was already shown to be mitigated. So the resolution is that having reviewed the FEAF and relating it to the criterion set forth in section 617C of the seeker regulations and making the findings and determinations contained in this resolution, the planning board as lead agency in this unlisted action issues a positive declaration under the environmental conservation law And it's resolved that the planning board requires a draft environmental impact statement, DEIS, be prepared by the applicant pursuant to section 617.9 of 6 NYCRR, and the scope of the DEIS is limited to the following items. Number 1 and number 2, I already went over. Number 3 is an analysis of the cuts and fills on the site. I'm going quickly and paraphrasing. Number 4 is the analysis of the manner and methods of on-site construction and supervision to assure that the earth movement cuts and fills is going to be mitigated during construction and stormwater impoundment. The manner and methods that this applicant can assure that the preserving of the natural and scenic qualities of open lands is followed under cluster development. The analysis and number 6 of the methods of placing of the proposed house on fill areas, as well as placement of utilities on fill areas and proper compaction of soils. And last, the manner and methods for control of neighborhood construction traffic and the timeframes to meet the
Okay.
So
Are we still looking for a meeting?
the resolution is that the lead agency is the planning board. The contact person is Lisa Beeman, secretary, and that scoping is not necessary. The scope is determined by this resolution.
Can you?
That's the motion. Joe, I leave that to you.
Okay, folks. I think it's time to make a vote on this. I'm going to call names in alphabetical order, and either yes, you approve the resolution, or no, you do not approve the resolution.
Joe, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
Motion made by Richard Rossetti and second by Mike Leroy.
We have some discussion, Joe, at this point.
Yes, we can discuss.
Okay. If we vote yes, that we approve the motion, and this goes back to a draft environmental statement, does that move the project forward?
It does.
It does.
What's the
And
difference between that and Frank Mento's suggestion of putting these guys in a room and locking the door until they come to an agreement?
It's going to
I'll
be.
tell you what the difference is. By voting in favor of the resolution, it sends it down a pathway of a defined draft environmental impact statement, which does nobody any good, the town, the developer, and the community, because it extends at an increased level of expense and resources what should be done in a room and should have been done in a room a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And that's what I was alluding to earlier.
Mr. Chairman.
However, given what has transpired here tonight on the phone and what little banter I've seen go back and forth, I'm not entirely convinced that the door can be locked on the room and a resolution can be made. I still think that the positive declaration route and the draft environmental impact statement continues, and I use this word, continues the volleying of stuff back and forth just in an extended and protracted time frame. My preference as one member of this board would be, before we go that route, that we try one more time to resolve the matters with the two teams and their technical folks.
Are the two teams in agreement with that?
Chairman, if I may.
Well, Frank, one thing you're missing, Frank, and that's the fact that this board has been criticized by the applicant for unduly delaying moving this matter forward. And if we do this, we're going to be subjected to additional criticism by the applicant for unduly delaying this matter.
Chairman.
Joe, I don't believe that.
Tom Douglas.
I don't believe it.
Not to mention, they have criticized our engineer. So how do you put our engineer in a room with them and expect any outcome other than what's happened over the last 3 years.
Mr. Chairman?
Precisely Rich, precisely my point in saying that initially I thought we could do that, but given the banter of tonight, I'm not sure we can do that. And that's most unfortunate.
I
Frank?
would tend to agree. I would tend to agree with you, Frank.
Frank, if
I agree too. Who keeps trying to talk to Frank?
Mr. Chairman?
Who am I speaking to?
Chairman, it's Tom Douglas. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we're not moving this matter forward.
What I'm asking you is, the answer to Frank's question is yes. We would very much look forward to a meeting, and we would like to have, if possible, several of the board members, possibly Frank, because he's an engineer, maybe Rich, any of the board members that would take it upon themselves to attend. I am confident, if given the time and not disrupted, every time we have attempted this, I may say, the town has exited the meeting before we got to any kind of substantive resolution. These 7 questions can be mitigated. They can be mitigated with our engineer. Rudy and Doug have worked together on numerous projects. There's not an issue there. I think it would be absolutely paramount if we could have a couple of the board members there so that they could arrive at a conclusion based on the facts from both engineers. But I think that is the positive way to move forward. And I think confidently we can get there sooner by doing it through that process than through a positive deck, if I may add.
This is not a delay.
Well, look,
It's
Joe,
not a delay. We're requesting that, so it's not a delay from our position.
There's a motion and a second.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
There's a
If I may interject as well. The
Yes.
idea is not to harm the project in a draft environmental impact statement setting. These issues may be able to be addressed fairly quickly. We are hopeful that they are sufficiently scoped and defined so that the answers can come quickly. And this was vetted, this didn't come out of the blue tonight. This has been vetted with board members. It's been vetted with the engineering team. And that when I didn't read every word of this resolution because it's here and it will be delivered to the applicant, that it will move the project forward, because if they can be addressed, and Doug said at the beginning of this, he thinks they can be, it will all be in writing. Now, there has to be a public hearing for the subdivision process. That can all happen at the same time, because if we get to seeker and there's a public hearing, it can all happen at the same time. We're not doing scoping. This resolution specifically has limited the scope. So in my estimation, this is going to move the project forward. That's what the chairperson wanted, and that's how this has gone forward.
And Jamie, I'm additionally concerned with hostility. Hostility has been expressed against this board before by the applicant, and there's been a lot of hostility tonight. And the hostility doesn't make for good talking. So we have a motion pending and second. Motion was made by Richard Rossetti. It's seconded by Mike Leroy. Yay or nay? Ann Kelly?
Yes. Yes.
Fred Gilbert?
Fred, you're on mute.
Fred, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Can't hear
Yes.
you, Fred.
Hear me now? Yes.
Yes. Frank Mento?
I very reluctantly vote no, because I feel there is a better way to get to the heart of this matter.
Okay. Arnie?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries for the resolution for positive deck.
Did Rich vote? I didn't hear that.
He made the motion.
Oh, he made the motion. Thank
Yep,
you.
that doesn't matter. I vote yes, and Mike should vote too.
And Mike votes yes. Mike votes yes.
Okay. I guess I'm out on parliamentary procedure. I figured the two motions were already yes. Okay, motion carries. This matter is postponed until a future date. Is there any date requested by the applicant?
What does that mean?
I just think they have to provide the draft environmental impact statement, and then we'll put it on.
Well, then we'll adjourn it indefinitely pending receipt of the environmental impact study.
Hey, Jamie, and I've done a couple of these recently, not obviously not in the town of Manlius, but they've had scoping meetings to try and define what the scope is. Is that what you're going to be sending us, the anticipated scope?
No, it's already, we're skipping that. The scope is decided. That's what this.
Right, you're
In the resolution.
This is it. It's only a few issues. It's scoped. It's scoped.
That's what I'm asking.
Yep.
The town will provide a copy of the resolution to the applicant and council. Okay. Fred, you want to make a motion?
I'll make
Yes,
a
sir.
motion. Okay, well, go ahead, Fred.
I got your chair.
I know. You
I
got-
move that we adjourn.
Second.
I'll second it.
By Michael Roy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Aye.
night, everybody.
Good night.